Hello, and welcome back to Zenin Fanfics. Today we're starting an exciting new series. What if Deku had dormant winged quirk? If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe for more content. The story we're featuring is written by Tanya First on Wattpad. You can find all the relevant links in the description, so be sure to check out the author's profile and say hello. Now let's dive into the story. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the small examination room, where a young Izuku Midoriya sat on the edge of the patient bed. His legs dangled, not quite reaching the floor, as he fidgeted with his hands, his eyes filled with anticipation. Inko Midoriya sat beside him, her hands nervously gripping her purse, a hopeful smile on her face. The doctor, a man with a serious demeanor and a clipboard in hand, cleared his throat, breaking the silence that had settled like a heavy weight in the room. He adjusted his glasses and looked down at Izuku before turning his gaze to Inko. "Mrs. Midoriya," he began, "we've completed all the tests, and we did find a quirk factor in Izuku." Izuku's eyes lit up, and he leaned forward, almost falling off the bed in his eagerness. "I have a quirk." "Really?" "Yes, you do," the doctor said, but his tone wasn't as enthusiastic as Izuku's. "However, it appears to be dormant. Based on our analysis, the quirk factor is present but underdeveloped. It could take several years to fully awaken, if it does at all." The room seemed to grow quieter, the words sinking in. Inko's hopeful smile wavered slightly, her eyes darting to Izuku, who was now staring at the doctor with a mix of confusion and determination. "So, I just have to wait, right?" Izuku asked, his voice trembling slightly but filled with a stubborn kind of hope. "My quirk will come one day, right?" The doctor nodded slowly. "That's correct. There may be signs of its development over time. Aches in certain areas, sensations that seem out of place. But it will require patience. There's no telling exactly when it will appear or what form it will take." Inko put a gentle hand on Izuku's shoulder, squeezing it reassuringly. "Izuku, did you hear that? You have a quirk. It might take some time, but it's there." Izuku nodded, swallowing hard, his mind already racing. He thought of all the times he had dreamed of being a hero, standing alongside All Might, the #1 hero in Japan, and saving people with a smile on his face. He felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, his dreams weren't as impossible as he'd feared. As the years passed, the knowledge of his dormant quirk became a double-edged sword for Izuku. Every day, he woke up wondering if today would be the day his quirk would finally show itself. He kept journals filled with theories and observations, each one meticulously detailing any strange sensation he experienced. But school was a constant reminder of his limitations. Unlike his classmates, who proudly displayed their abilities, Izuku felt left behind. He remembered the days when he and Kaken were friends, playing together and dreaming of becoming heroes. But as their quirks developed, their paths diverged. Kaken's confidence grew, and he began to view Izuku with disdain for not having a quirk to match his own burgeoning powers. "Why don't you just try to be more like me?" Kaken would taunt, his tone sharp and dismissive. "You could never be a hero without a real quirk, Deku." Those words cut deep, leaving Izuku to grapple with a painful truth. He was nothing without a quirk. Determined to prove himself, he experimented with everything he could think of. He practiced breathing fire like his father, his cheeks puffing and his eyes watering as he failed time and time again. He tried running as fast as he could, sprinting through the neighborhood in a desperate bid to match Kaken's speed, only to end up gasping for breath before collapsing in a heap. He even attempted to punch as hard as All Might, his fists striking trees and dummies, only to find himself sore and bruised with no signs of super strength to speak of. Each failure weighed heavily on him, a reminder of the gap between himself and his peers. The spark of excitement he once felt for heroism dimmed as the pressure to succeed grew. In quiet moments, when the house was still, Izuku would close his eyes and imagine it, a quirk that would finally let him stand tall beside Kaken, a chance to reclaim their friendship. But all he could do was dream. Each night, he envisioned having his quirk fighting bad guys and saving people like All Might. Yet, in the morning light, he was met only with the dull ache between his shoulder blades, a phantom sensation that left him frustrated and longing. Inko never let his hope waver, always there to remind him that just because his quirk was slow to come didn't mean it wasn't strong. She'd smile and say, "The strongest things take time, Izuku, like heroes, and you're going to be the best one." But as the years wore on, the gap between him and Kaken widened, and the laughter of their childhood faded into the distance. It's been 10 years since his diagnosis. As the years dragged on, the soreness in Izuku's back became an almost constant companion. At first, he thought it was just growing pains or the result of his constant attempts to push his limits, but it lingered longer than he expected. It mostly concentrated around his shoulder blades, as if something inside him was struggling to break free. Each night, he tossed and turned, plagued by vivid dreams that left him gasping for breath. In those dreams, he soared through the sky, wings unfurling behind him, but he always woke up before he could truly fly, leaving him exhausted and frustrated. The thrill of freedom quickly faded into the stark reality of his empty bedroom. School was a mix of excitement and dread. With high school applications looming, he often found himself daydreaming about UA and the possibility of finally being recognized as a hero. But as he sat in class, the whispers from his classmates about their own quirks and aspirations only served to deepen his anxiety. Would he ever be good enough? One day, an announcement from the teachers echoed through the classroom, capturing everyone's attention. "Since you're all third years, it's time to start thinking seriously about your future," the teacher said, a hint of excitement in his voice. "I'll pass out handouts for your future plans now, but you're all pretty much planning to go into the hero course, right?" The class erupted into cheers, with students proudly showing off their quirks. Izuku felt a surge of hope. UA will be my chance, he thought, clenching his fists tightly. He could already picture himself walking through those gates, training to become a true hero. His daydream was abruptly interrupted when the teacher casually mentioned both Katsuki's and his own name as students aiming to apply to UA High. The whole class burst into laughter, mocking Izuku for trying to get into UA without a quirk. He felt the sting of their words, and he could sense Katsuki's glare burning into him from across the room. After school, as he was packing up his things, he felt a presence looming over him. Katsuki Bakugo stood there, a smirk plastered on his face. "So, you're really going to apply to UA? Didn't I tell you not to dream about going to UA?" He sneered, reaching out and snatching the folder containing Izuku's analysis of Hero number 13. Izuku's heart raced, panic flooding through him as Katsuki flipped through the pages, laughter bubbling up from his throat. "What's this? Your little stalker notes? Like that's going to change anything," he taunted, throwing the papers back at Izuku, who felt a wave of humiliation wash over him. "Kaken, please, I just want to be a hero." Izuku tried to explain, but the words caught in his throat. Katsuki's expression hardened, the mocking light in his eyes turning cold. "You think you could just waltz into UA? Like you belong there? You're nothing without a quirk." "Oh, I know a way you can get quirk. Why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and hope to be born with a quirk in your next life?" Izuku's heart sank as the words pierced through him, leaving him breathless. He felt cornered, trapped in a reality where his dreams seemed impossibly far away. The laughter of their classmates echoed in his mind as he tried to gather his thoughts, but Katsuki's scornful gaze pinned him down. Stumbling out of the school building, he tried to shake off the confrontation, but the air was thick with anxiety. As he walked home, the soreness in his back felt worse than ever, a dull ache that spread down his spine. Each step was a reminder of his inadequacy, a haunting echo of his dreams slipping further out of reach. Lost in thought, Izuku passed by a dimly lit alleyway when suddenly the ground trembled beneath him. A figure emerged from the sewer, its gooey form lunging toward him with menacing speed. The sludge villain aimed straight for him, its tendrils reaching out like grasping hands. Izuku barely had time to react as the sludge enveloped him, the cold, slimy sensation wrapping around his body. Panic surged through him as he felt the villain trying to take over his mind, the weight of despair crashing down like a tidal wave. "Sorry, kid. I will just borrow your body for a while." I did not know he was in town, the villain taunted, its voice dripping with malice. Izuku struggled to breathe, clawing at the sludge entering his mouth, but it was futile. Darkness crept into his vision as his body fought against the suffocating grip. The last thing he remembered before everything went black was the feeling of his lungs burning, desperately trying to take in air. Just as he was slipping into unconsciousness, the sewer lid burst open with a tremendous crash. A massive figure emerged with incredible speed, striking the sludge and knocking it off him. The last thing Izuku felt was the cool air rushing against his skin before everything faded into darkness. When Izuku came to, he felt a strange sensation, like someone was slapping his cheek. "Kid, wake up!" His eyes fluttered open, and as his vision cleared, he found himself staring up at All Might, the symbol of peace. Relief washed over him, mixed with lingering panic. "All Might," he croaked, his voice barely above a whisper. All Might's broad smile softened into one of concern. "You did well to fight back against that sludge villain. I'm sorry I was late to arrive." Izuku blinked, still processing the encounter. Where's the villain?" he asked, glancing around frantically. All Might gestured to 2 empty soda bottles in his hands, each filled with the remnants of the sludge. "I've got him right here," he said with a hint of pride, placing the bottles securely in his pockets. Feeling a surge of excitement, Izuku scrambled for his backpack, rummaging through it to find his notebook. "I need you to sign my notebook." As he turned the pages of his hero analysis, number 13, he froze, noticing that All Might had already signed it. His name sprawled across 2 pages, a sight that made Izuku's heart race with awe. "Wow, you already did it." "Thank you, All Might," Izuku exclaimed, his spirits lifting. "I will keep this as a family heirloom." All Might chuckled, preparing to jump off the rooftop. "I've got to go now, kid. Keep working hard." "Wait, All Might, before you go," Izuku shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins as he ran toward All Might. In a split second, as All Might launched himself into the sky, Izuku grabbed onto his leg, holding on tightly. "Let go, kid. I know you're a fan, but this is going too far." All Might called down, his tone a mix of amusement and concern. "If I let go, I'll fall to my death." Izuku replied, panic lacing his voice. With a sigh of resignation, All Might decided to land on the nearest rooftop, the wind whipping around them as they touched down. Okay. Just be careful next time," he said, looking down at Izuku with an amused yet exasperated expression. Izuku's heart raced, exhilaration coursing through him as he stood beside his idol on the rooftop, the reality of the moment sinking in. As All Might landed on the rooftop, he took a moment to gather himself before starting to walk toward the nearest exit. "See you later, kid," he called over his shoulder. Izuku watched the retreating figure of his idol, a wave of determination washing over him. This was his only chance to ask the question that had been weighing heavily on his mind. "All Might, wait," he shouted, his voice echoing against the concrete. All Might paused and turned slightly, curiosity evident in his stance. "What is it? Can someone with a dormant quirk be a hero?" "I always wanted to be a hero, to help others with a smile like you, even when my quirk shows no sign of emerging," Izuku blurted out, his heart pounding in his chest. All Might's expression shifted, a serious look crossing his features. "No," he replied firmly. "Hero work is a dangerous field where you can get hurt easily if you don't have a quirk to defend yourself." Izuku's heart sank at the response, but All Might continued. "It's good to have dreams, but make sure they are realistic. You can be a doctor or a police officer if you want to help people." With that, All Might turned and walked away, leaving Izuku standing there, a storm of emotions swirling within him. Realistic dreams? The words echoed in his mind, mingling with his hopes and aspirations. Izuku gazed at the horizon, feeling the weight of All Might's words pressing down on him. Can I still be a hero, even without a quirk? Izuku stood on the rooftop, the cool breeze brushing against his skin as he stared out at the sprawling city below. His heart felt heavy, weighed down by the crushing reality of his dreams slipping further away. Tears glistened in his eyes as he thought of All Might's words. The hope he had carried now dimmed to a flicker. Katsuki's voice echoed in his mind, each word a stab to his heart. Why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and hope to be born with a quirk in your next life? The cruel taunt lingered, drowning out the distant sounds of laughter and life below. Would anyone really care if he was gone? As he walked closer to the edge, the world around him blurred. Images of classmates and friends flickered through his mind, but they were overshadowed by the gnawing sense of loneliness that had become all too familiar. Izuku felt a pang of regret as he thought about his mother. She had always been his anchor, believing in him when even he couldn't. The thought of her brought warmth to his heart, but it was quickly swallowed by the chill of despair. What good was it to dream of being a hero if he couldn't even manifest a quirk? He took a deep breath, closing his eyes, wrestling with the longing to turn around and walk away, to seek comfort in the one person who truly believed in him. Just as he made up his mind to leave, a whisper floated through his thoughts. Fly, little bird, and soar the sky. In that fleeting moment, a spark ignited within him, and the gravity of his emotions shifted. Izuku felt a rush of adrenaline, a primal instinct urging him forward. Before he could overthink it, he leaped off the edge, the world falling away beneath him. As he plummeted, a wave of exhilaration surged through him, and he screamed, part fear, part freedom. This was it. And then, just as he felt the finality of the ground rushing toward him, something miraculous happened. Wings burst forth from his back, unfurling with a powerful force that caught the wind. In an instant, he was no longer falling. He was soaring. The air filled with the sound of flapping wings, and Izuku felt alive for the first time, the sky opening up before him like a vast, welcoming embrace. He glided through the air, the weight of his doubts lifted, replaced by a rush of clarity and purpose. I could be a hero, he thought, a grin spreading across his face as he took in the breathtaking view from above. I will be a hero. Hawks perched on a rooftop overlooking a quiet alley in Mizudafu, his eyes scanning the streets below. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city. He'd been tailing All Might for days now, observing the former symbol of peace. His mission from the Hero Public Commission had been straightforward: keep an eye on All Might and report on his activities. But this day had turned chaotic in an instant. The sludge villain had emerged, a chaotic mess of goo that threatened the citizens. Hawks watched as All Might launched into action, the sheer force of his presence commanding respect and attention. The legendary hero fought fiercely, drawing the attention of the crowd around him. Hawks stayed above, using his controlled wings to maneuver through the air and keep an eye on the unfolding scene. He didn't intervene. Instead, he watched, assessing the situation from a distance. The sludge villain proved elusive, slipping into a nearby sewer, just as All Might pursued. The legendary hero fought fiercely, but the villain proved elusive, slipping into a nearby sewer, just as All Might pursued. Frustration bubbled beneath Hawk's calm exterior. He needed a better vantage point to see where All Might would emerge. He soared up into the sky, the wind ruffling his feathers, searching for any sign of the hero. After what felt like an eternity, Hawks finally spotted All Might leaping through the sky, and his heart raced as he realized there was someone clinging to his leg. Who's that kid? Hawks thought, a mix of disbelief and concern flooding his thoughts. What was he doing up there? The two soared high above the streets, All Might's strength and resolve evident even in this unexpected predicament. As Hawks glided effortlessly in the air, he felt a twinge of admiration for the boy. As they landed on a nearby rooftop, Hawks carefully maneuvered himself into a position where he could listen in without being seen. He activated one of his controlled wings, allowing it to stretch discreetly closer to the pair. Listening intently, he heard Izuku's hopeful question about being a hero, followed by All Might's crushing response. Hawks felt a pang in his chest. He could see the disappointment wash over Izuku's face a reflection of the struggles that many aspiring heroes faced. After All Might departed, leaving Izuku alone on the rooftop, Hawks felt a strong pull toward the boy. Should I go after All Might, or stay and watch over the kid? He chose to remain hidden, sensing that something significant was about to unfold. As Izuku stood at the edge, lost in thought, Hawks held his breath. "Don't do it, kid." In that moment, Izuku seemed to awaken from his stupor. He stepped back then, without warning, jumped off the rooftop. Hawk's heart raced as he instinctively prepared to dive after him. But he stopped, mesmerized as wings erupted from Izuku's back. The transformation was nothing short of breathtaking. The kid was flying. "Fly, little bird!" Hawk shouted, even though Izuku couldn't hear him. He couldn't help but smile, feeling a surge of pride for the boy. The moment was a revelation, and the promise of potential crackled in the air. As he watched Izuku struggle to navigate the skies, the weight of his earlier doubts seemed to lift. Hawks felt a surge of purpose. He'd help this kid become a hero. Not just any hero, but one who was free, untethered by the burdens of the past. With renewed determination, Hawks made his decision. He would train Izuku in secret, guiding him as he harnessed his newfound powers. This was the beginning of something extraordinary, and Hawks was more than ready to be a part of it. Izuku soared through the sky, the exhilaration of flight filling his senses as he reveled in the freedom that came with his newly discovered quirk. The city sprawled beneath him, a patchwork of buildings and streets, but his joy was short-lived. As he navigated through the air, a sudden realization struck him. He had no idea how to control his flight. Panic surged as he struggled to keep his balance, veering off course and darting toward a nearby alleyway. Just as he thought he might crash, a sharp whistle cut through the air, and a familiar figure swooped in beside him. With feathered wings that glimmered in the sunlight, Hawks glided effortlessly, his playful demeanor contrasting with the seriousness of the situation. "Hey there, little bird," he called out, flashing a confident grin. "Looks like you've got some impressive wings. But maybe you should practice flying a bit more before trying to do stunts." Izuku blinked, wide-eyed with awe as he steadied himself beside the hero. "H. Hawks, you're—" "Yep, that's me," Hawks said, adjusting his goggles as he effortlessly matched Izuku's altitude. "Nice to meet a fellow flyer. I've been keeping an eye on you since I saw you leap off that roof. Pretty gutsy move." "I thank you. I didn't know what I was doing," Izuku admitted, embarrassment flushing his cheeks. "I just wanted to. I thought I could fly. And you can. But you might want to work on your landing, too." Hawks chuckled, his voice friendly and encouraging. "So what's your quirk?" I don't have a name for it yet," Izuku stammered, glancing down at the streets below. "I only discovered it today. My mom and I just found out that I have a dormant quirk that was supposed to show eventually, but I didn't expect this." He gestured to his wings, still awestruck. Hawks nodded, his expression turning more serious. "It's not uncommon for quirks to manifest suddenly, especially with a lot of emotion behind it. You're lucky to have such a powerful ability, but it's also a huge responsibility." He paused, his tone shifting. "You need to learn how to control it. Flying is all about balance." "I want to be a hero," Izuku confessed, his determination shining through the uncertainty. "I want to help people just like All Might." "I get that," Hawks replied, his gaze steady. "But being a hero isn't just about power. It's about how you use it. If you want to train, I can help you out. Keep it under wraps for now, though. We don't want the public to know about your quirk just yet." Izuku's heart raced at the prospect. "You'd help me?" "Of course. I see potential in you, kid," Hawks said with a wink. "But this is going to be a secret. Just promise me you'll put in the effort." "I promise," Izuku replied, a smile breaking across his face. For the first time in a while, hope bloomed in his chest. "All right then," Hawks said, taking a step back. "Let's see what you can do. First lesson, practice landings." "Ready, ready," Izuku shouted, the thrill of adventure washing over him as they began their training high above the city. The morning after his quirk manifested, Izuku Midoriya woke up with a sense of exhilaration and determination. He couldn't shake off the feeling of soaring through the sky, the wind rushing past him as his wings extended wide. Despite the initial shock of their sudden retraction, the sensation of flight had left a profound mark on him. Today was the day he would begin his training with hawks. After school, Izuku stood at Dagobah Beach, a place notorious for its litter and debris. Hawks was already there, his casual demeanor contrasting with the chaotic environment. "Welcome to Dagobah Beach, kid. Not the prettiest place, but perfect for what we're about to do," Hawks said, gesturing at the heaps of trash scattered around the beach. "We're going to clean up this mess while getting you into shape. A hero's work isn't just about using their powers. It's also about being physically fit." Izuku nodded, a mix of excitement and nervousness coursing through him. "What I need to do? Simple. Start picking up trash and carrying it to that rented pickup truck over there," Hawks instructed, pointing at the truck parked nearby. "The goal is to do this without relying on your quirk. You'll be doing this for 2 months, then the remaining 8 months will train your quirk, hand-to-hand combat and weapon usage." Simple, right? Izuku's face fell as he processed Hawks' words. "Wait, what? I thought we were training my quirk." His hands clenched in frustration, but a comedic pout formed on his face. "You mean I have to be a glorified trash collector for 2 months? This isn't exactly what I had in mind when I thought about training with the number 2 hero." Hawks chuckled, crossing his arms. "Hey, this is crucial for your hero training. You need to build up your strength. Plus, think of it this way. Every piece of trash you pick up is one less piece of trash that's going to ruin someone's beach day." Izuku sighed dramatically, plopping down beside a large pile of garbage. "I'm going to be the most muscular garbage collector ever. I can see it now. Look, it's Izuku Midoriya, the hero who saves the world one piece of trash at a time." He flexed his arms, making exaggerated poses while imitating a dramatic hero. Hawks laughed, shaking his head. "I'm sure you'd make a great hero for cleaning up litter. But trust me, this is just the beginning. You'll thank me when you can lift a truck with your bare hands." "Yeah, right. At this rate, I'll just be known as Trash Hero, and I'll get my own special school for heroes who clean up." Izuku muttered, picking up a large piece of debris, a broken plastic chair, and trudging toward the truck. The weight strained his muscles, but he pushed through, motivated by the prospect of becoming a hero. As he worked, Hawks kept a close eye on him, occasionally offering tips on lifting techniques and posture. "Keep your back straight, Izuku. You want to lift with your legs, not your back," he called out, demonstrating with one of his own wings. Hours passed, and the sun hung low in the sky, casting golden light across the beach. Izuku's arms began to feel heavy, and sweat dripped from his brow, but he refused to give up. With each piece of trash he carried, he felt stronger, more capable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Izuku dropped the last piece of trash into the truck and took a deep breath, exhaustion washing over him. "I didn't think cleaning up could be this hard," he exclaimed, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. Hawks grinned, crossing his arms. "Welcome to the life of a hero. It's not all flashy powers and saving the day. You've got to build your endurance and strength. We'll be doing this every day after school. But there's still so much trash left," Izuku said, glancing around at the remaining debris. Hawks shrugged. "We'll tackle it bit by bit. You'll get stronger each time. Now, for the next part of your training, I want you to do some physical activities every morning before school. Running, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever it takes to strengthen your body." Izuku knew from now that his days will not be the same. "I'll do it. I'll become strong enough to be a hero." "Good. Remember, you're not just training to control your quirk. You're training to be the best version of yourself. And that means putting in the work, even when it's tough," Hawks encouraged. With a smile spreading across his face, Izuku nodded. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders, but it felt right. As they finished cleaning up, he knew he was one step closer to achieving his dream of becoming a hero. Since starting his training at Dagobah Beach, Izuku's school life had taken on a new rhythm. While his classmates buzzed with excitement about their quirks and future hero aspirations, Izuku kept his head down, focusing on the goal he had set for himself. Each day, he endured the familiar taunts and laughter from his peers, especially from Katsuki, who seemed determined to remind him of his quirkless status. But this time it was different. Instead of feeling dejected, Izuku felt a spark of determination igniting within him. His training with hawks had transformed him both physically and mentally. As he cleaned the beach, he could feel his strength building. At school, he still experienced the occasional mockery, but he brushed it off. Just wait, he thought, clenching his fists. Once I show everyone what I've been working on, they'll see I'm not just some quirkless nobody. He daydreamed about UA High, envisioning himself walking through the gates and impressing his future classmates with his newfound abilities. The thought kept him going, even when the pressure felt overwhelming. As he settled into his routine, Izuku realized that each day brought him closer to his goal. Though his classmates couldn't see the hard work behind the scenes, he knew that, with perseverance and dedication, he would prove them all wrong. 2 months passed fairly quickly as Izuku carried trash around, and now he was ready to start the next phase of his training. Spreading his wings wide, he approached the nearest refrigerator, feeling the familiar surge of energy in his core. With a powerful flap, he pushed against the appliance, and to his delight, it lifted off the ground effortlessly. "This is so much easier now," he shouted, exhilarated by his newfound strength. He moved quickly, tossing the refrigerator into the rented pickup truck designated for disposal. As he continued, Izuku noticed the huge piles of trash diminishing, each successful lift boosting his confidence. After clearing a significant portion of the beach, he turned to tackle a particularly heavy washing machine. It was a piece he had struggled with before, but now, with his quirk fully manifesting, he felt ready for the challenge. "Here we go," he yelled, flapping his wings with determination. The washing machine lifted smoothly, and he tossed it into the truck with ease. Wings provide additional muscle and strength. You'll see that picking up trash is relatively easier than when you started. You can carry things twice your weight now, Hawks chirped in. For the following 3 months, Izuku cleaned up half of the beach. Feeling pumped, Izuku scanned the remaining debris. That's when he noticed something unusual sticking out from the heaps of trash. A car, mostly buried in the sand. His heart raced at the sight. If he could free that car, it would be a massive victory. "What a mess," he muttered, stepping closer to inspect the situation. He could see the outline of the vehicle, half buried under a pile of junk. But how am I supposed to get that out? Izuku approached the car, excitement and trepidation mingling within him. "Okay, focus. I can do this." He spread his wings wide, channeling the energy he had come to rely on. He flapped his wings, envisioning the car lifting off the ground. He concentrated on the object before him, feeling the familiar sensation of his quirk awakening. At first, he tried to flap and pull the car out, but it remained stubbornly lodged in place. "Why won't it move?" he groaned, digging his hands into the sand. Just as despair began to creep in, he felt a new source of power within him. He focused on that new energy, extending it towards the car. As he did, he felt an exhilarating sensation, like a pulse of power connecting him to the vehicle. The car shifted slightly, and in a moment of disbelief, he realized he was moving it with sheer willpower. "I can't believe it," Izuku exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. "Is this telekinesis?" It looked just like his mom's, but stronger. Hawks, watching from a distance, leaned in, intrigued. "I didn't know you could do that, little bird." He couldn't hide the excitement in his voice, knowing they were both witnessing the emergence of a new aspect of Izuku's quirk. With newfound confidence, Izuku focused harder. The car lifted higher, freeing itself from the sandy grip. "I'm really using it. This is incredible," he shouted, adrenaline coursing through him. "Keep going. Let's see how far you can take it." Hawks encouraged, feeling a surge of pride for his protege. With one final push of his mental energy, Izuku lifted the car completely free from the trash, setting it down safely a few feet away. Panting from the exertion, he stared in disbelief at what he had just accomplished. "I did it. I really did it," he cheered, unable to contain his joy. "Yeah, you did. That's some powerful telekinesis," Hawks exclaimed, grinning widely. "This is a huge breakthrough for you." We're just scratching the surface of what you can do. With a heart full of determination, Izuku knew that this was just the beginning of his journey. He was ready to embrace every challenge that lay ahead on his path to becoming a hero. Discovering his telekinesis had been a monumental breakthrough, and Izuku was eager to develop his abilities further. Sitting on the sand, he reviewed the new training schedule that Hawks had put together for the next 4 months. All right, Izuku, we're going to step up our training now that you've unlocked your telekinesis, Hawks announced, grinning as he pulled out a clipboard. Here's the plan: quirkless training, flying, telekinesis, hand-to-hand combat, and weapon usage. Izuku listened intently, his heart racing with excitement. You've made great progress in building muscle, flying, and hand-to-hand combat. With the discovery of your new quirk, your progress is more impressive than I expected. Now, let's start practicing with a weapon of your choice. Hawks paused dramatically, raising an eyebrow. As for me, I'm good with knives. I mostly use my wings like knives. But since you can't control your individual wings yet, we need to find a weapon that suits you. Izuku nodded, determined. I'm ready. Great. How about a staff? Hawks suggested. You can use it even when your wings are retracted. Plus, it'll give you a solid reach. A staff sounds perfect, Izuku exclaimed, picturing himself wielding it like a true hero. Now, we're also going to incorporate a wing shield using your telekinesis, Hawks continued. This way, you can block incoming attacks. I want you to be able to dodge my controlled feathers while airborne. Wait, you gonna throw feathers at me? Izuku asked wide-eyed. What if I get hit? Hawks smirked. That's the point. Consider it a crash course in dodging. Just think of it as a game of dodgeball, but with feathers and slightly more danger. Izuku gulped, half excited and half nervous. You really know how to motivate me, Hawks. Just remember, every time you get hit, I'll consider it a lesson learned. Hawks laughed, tossing a feather up into the air and sending it soaring toward Izuku. As Izuku practiced dodging, he realized he was learning to trust his instincts more. Each successful maneuver boosted his confidence, and the thrill of flight combined with the challenge of dodging Hawks' feathers made him feel alive. Not bad, but let's see if you can avoid my feathers while in the air. Hawks challenged, launching a series of feathers with a flick of his wrist. Here goes nothing, Izuku shouted, flapping his wings and taking to the sky. He quickly learned that the key was to anticipate Hawks' movements rather than react to them. After a few close calls and some near misses, Izuku laughed. This is harder than I thought. Welcome to training, kid. Just think of me as your feathered nemesis. Hawks teased, chuckling as Izuku narrowly dodged another feather. With each passing day, Izuku not only improved his skills, but also learned more about himself. His determination to rise above challenges, the power of teamwork, and the importance of laughter in the face of adversity. As he trained, he realized that each feather and every tumble was a step toward his dream of becoming a true hero. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over Dagobah Beach, Izuku Midoriya stood beside his mentor, Hawks, admiring their hard work. The beach sparkled under the fading sunlight, its transformation from a trash-laden wasteland to an appealing landscape nearly surreal. Hey Hawks, we really did it. The beach looks amazing, Izuku exclaimed, wiping sweat from his brow and taking in the breathtaking view. Absolutely. You come a long way, Izuku. I'm proud of you, Hawks replied, a satisfied grin plastered across his face. This place is almost unrecognizable. Just think, if we can clean up the beach, imagine what you can do at UA. Izuku nodded, feeling a surge of pride. I can't believe how much I've improved. But I still have something important to do before the entrance exams. Hawks raised an eyebrow. Oh, what's that? Izuku hesitated for a moment, his heart racing at the thought of sharing his secret. I need to tell my mom that my quirk has finally come in. Good call. She deserves to hear it from you, Hawks encouraged, giving him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Just make sure you don't make it sound too dramatic, or she might start asking you to wear a cape or something. Izuku chuckled, the nervousness still lingering in the back of his mind. Yeah, I'll try not to make it too over the top. With one last look at the pristine beach, he took a deep breath. It's time to come clean. After finishing their training, Izuku arrived home, his heart pounding with anticipation. He found his mother, Inko, in the kitchen, her hands busy preparing dinner. The comforting aroma of miso soup filled the air, wrapping him in a sense of warmth. "Hey, Mom, can I talk to you for a minute?" he called out, his voice slightly shaky. "Of course, sweetheart. Just a moment," she replied, turning to face him with a warm smile that made his heart swell. As she wiped her hands on a towel and walked over, Izuku took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation. He knew she had been supportive of his efforts to prepare for the entrance exams, but he also felt guilty for keeping his quirk a secret for so long. I've been training really hard for the entrance exams," he began, nervously fiddling with his hands. "And I have something important to share." Inko's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "You have? You've been training hard for the past few months. Did something good happen?" Izuku hesitated, feeling the weight of his decision. "How do I even start?" "Well, I've been keeping something from you. I discovered that my quirk has finally emerged." Inko's expression shifted to one of concern, and she stepped closer. "What do you mean? You mean you have your quirk now?" "Yeah, I have retractable wings, Mom, and I can use telekinesis just like you." He blurted out, the words rushing out before he could second-guess himself. Her eyes widened in surprise, a mixture of pride and disbelief washing over her. "I'm so happy for you, honey. I knew you were training hard, but this is incredible. I thought you were just trying to get in shape for the exams." Izuku felt the nervousness fade away, replaced by excitement. "I wanted to wait until I was ready to tell you everything. I've been working with a pro hero who saw me cleaning up the beach. He's been helping me train my body and my quirks." Inko's face softened with understanding. "Oh, that explained the coming home later than usual and the change in meal plans. Yeah, well, I guess I kind of kept it all a secret to surprise you. I didn't want to worry you while I figured everything out," Izuku admitted, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. His mother enveloped him in a warm hug, and Izuku felt the tension melt away. "You will never disappoint me, Izuku. You've always had the heart of a hero. I believe in you." As they pulled away, Izuku felt a surge of happiness. He had finally shared this significant part of his life, and the relief was palpable. "Just promise me one thing," she added, raising a finger playfully. "You be safe." Izuku laughed, his earlier nerves dissipating. "I promise, Mom." With that, Izuku felt ready to focus on the entrance exams with his head held high, supported by his mother's unwavering belief in him. On the morning of the UA entrance exams, Izuku stood outside the towering UA High building, a sense of awe swelling within him. The massive structure gleamed in the morning sun, a symbol of hope and strength for every aspiring hero, including himself. He'd worked so hard to get here, and today was finally the day. With a deep breath, Izuku whispered to himself, "This is it. I'm finally here." He steeled his nerves, feeling the gentle tug of determination that had kept him going through all those long days of training. "I'm going to do my best, no, better than my best." He stepped inside, following the flow of students who were also here to take the exams, each wearing expressions that ranged from anxious to overly confident. As he made his way to the exam hall, he double-checked his exam ticket and followed the row numbers, scanning for his designated seat. Finally, he spotted his row, only to notice that his assigned seat was right next to none other than Katsuki Bakugo. Izuku's breath caught for a moment. He and Bakugo hadn't spoken since their last confrontation, and the idea of sitting right next to him felt awkward, to say the least. Bakugo hadn't noticed him yet, his gaze fixed ahead, a fierce determination evident in his eyes. "Okay, just stay calm, Izuku," he reminded himself, sliding into his seat and trying not to attract Bakugo's attention. He settled in, hands clasped together, tapping his fingers to keep his mind steady. Around him, students continued to file into the hall, chattering nervously or exchanging determined glances, waiting for the proctor to start the exams. His heart raced, excitement and nerves colliding in his chest. He was here, surrounded by so many talented individuals who shared his dream. This is where my journey truly begins. President Mike stood at the front of the exam hall, his voice booming across the room, filling every corner with an energy that could wake even the sleepiest of students. "All right, listen up, everyone," he announced, grinning from ear to ear. "No cheating, no talking, and absolutely no funny business during the exam. This is the real deal, so I expect you to give it everything you've got. You've got 3 hours. Go plus ultra." The students exchanged determined glances, steeling themselves as the papers were handed out. Izuku took a deep breath, the intensity of the hall heightening his focus. "Here we go," he thought, scanning the questions with confidence. He might not have been the top dog in middle school, but he was consistently in the top 5, and his long hours of study had prepared him well. Page after page, he answered quickly and thoughtfully, recalling his preparation and the countless notes he'd made. He felt good about it. He could do this. 3 hours flew by, and soon, Present Mick's voice once again cut through the silence. "Time's up. Pencils down." Izuku sighed in relief, stretching his fingers after writing furiously for hours. He felt confident. He'd given it his best, and the questions were challenging but not impossible. But he barely had time to relax before Present Mike continued with his announcement. "You've got a 30-minute break before the practical portion. Head to the cafeteria if you're hungry. Change into your gym clothes, and get ready to show what you're made of." Izuku grinned, the excitement building in his chest. He joined the crowd heading toward the cafeteria, where he quickly grabbed a light meal to refuel for what lay ahead. After a quick bite, he made his way to the locker rooms to change. The buzz in the air was undeniable. He could feel the anticipation from everyone around him as they slipped out of their school uniforms and into gym clothes. It was time to show what they could do. "This is my chance," he thought, lacing up his sneakers with renewed determination. The students shuffled back into the hall, energy buzzing around them, as Present Mike took the stage again, ready to explain the practical exam. He grinned, microphone in hand, looking every bit the pro hero that Izuku had admired for years. "Welcome back, future heroes," he boomed. "For this next part, you're going to be testing your skills against some opponents. You'll be going up against robots. Each one is worth a different amount of points, depending on how tough it is." He held up 3 fingers. "There are 3 main types: the 1-pointer, the 2-pointer, and the 3-pointer. Each one's got different strengths, so watch out and strategize well." Before he could finish, a tall, muscular boy with glasses stood up, raising his hand high in a sharp, determined manner. Without waiting to be called on, he interjected, "Excuse me, sir. The handout mentions a 4th type of robot, yet you haven't explained it. If this is an oversight, it is unbecoming of a school with such high standards as UA. We, as examinees, deserve complete information." The hall went silent, with a few students casting surprised glances at the bold student. Present Mike blinked, a bit surprised by the interruption, but quickly chuckled. "All right, you've got a keen eye there," he said, clearly amused. "The 4th type is called the 0-pointer. Now listen closely. This one's a big obstacle, literally. It's worth 0 points, so if you see it, don't waste your time trying to take it down. It's only there to get in your way, so avoid it if you can." The students murmured amongst themselves, a mixture of curiosity and nervousness filling the room. Izuku thought carefully about the 0-pointer. It's just an obstacle, but they wouldn't put it there without a reason. Present Mike clapped his hands. "All right, heroes in the making. Now you know what you're up against. Get ready, give it your best, and show us what you're made of." They gathered outside the large metal gates, which blocked off the mock city that would serve as their battleground. Izuku felt his heart hammering with a mix of excitement and nerves. This was it, the start of his path toward becoming a hero. He flexed his wings subtly, ensuring they were ready. The moment the gates opened, Izuku didn't hesitate. He spread his wings wide, launching himself into the air and soaring over the streets below. The rush of wind against his face heightened his focus as he began scanning the city for targets, eager to make the most of his abilities. Present Mick's voice boomed over the loudspeaker, breaking the other students' momentary shock. "What are you all waiting for? Go!" There are no countdowns in real battles. Izuku grinned to himself, glad he'd trusted his instincts to take the lead. Izuku flew over the mock city, his sharp eyes scanning for target robots scattered across the streets and alleyways below. Spotting a one-pointer, he angled his descent, pushing forward with a burst of speed, and focused his telekinesis to shove it hard against a nearby wall, disabling it in one move. One down, he thought, feeling his confidence grow. Before long, Izuku was moving like a well-oiled machine. He swooped down over clusters of 2- and 3-pointer robots, sending out a precise telekinetic blast to push one into another. The impact sent sparks flying as both robots toppled over, deactivated. "Yes," he muttered, looking up in time to see a few other participants catching up on the ground below. But he had the advantage of height and maneuverability. Spying another 3-pointer rolling toward a nearby alley, Izuku landed directly in its path and vaulted into a powerful kick, using his telekinesis to boost the force. The robot shattered on impact, adding even more points to his growing tally. Each takedown fueled his resolve, and he moved with increasing speed and strategy. As he swept over the city, however, he noticed a participant struggling with a 2-pointer closing in on them, its mechanical limbs swinging dangerously. Izuku dived down, aiming a telekinetic push at the robot's arm, which knocked it back just enough to give the examinee time to get away. "You okay?" he called, hovering above as the other student gave a grateful nod before sprinting off. Further along, he spotted another participant, a girl, about to score her first points, until a 3-pointer loomed up behind her, ready to strike. Reacting instinctively, Izuku propelled himself forward and shot a telekinetic blast to shove the robot's arm away. "Behind you," he warned as she turned around, startled but grateful. "Thanks," she shouted. "No problem. Just keep an eye out." Izuku smiled before taking to the skies once more. Soon, he came across a small group of students cornered by 2-pointers and a 3-pointer. They were backed up against a wall, looking exhausted. Izuku swooped down, sending a piece of debris spinning through the air to knock 2 of the robots off balance. With a few quick strikes, he deactivated them and cleared a path. "Go," he urged, watching as they dashed away with relieved expressions. While racking up his own points, Izuku couldn't ignore those around him in trouble. For him, this test was about more than just numbers. It was about showing he had what it took to be a true hero. In the observation booth above the mock city, a group of pro heroes, including All Might, Principal Nizu, and the other UA faculty, watched the students tackle the practical exam with growing interest. Monitors displayed different angles of the mock city, showing students strategizing and taking down the robots in their designated areas. "Look at that one," Aizawa said, nodding toward a screen where Izuku was darting through the air with a clear sense of purpose. "He's using his wings to gain a serious speed advantage." "Indeed," Nizu commented, his eyes twinkling as he observed. "Flying gives him a vantage point others lack, and his quirk, telekinesis, seems well honed. He's knocking down multiple robots at once with precision." All Might leaned forward, watching Izuku intently. "That boy, there's a fierce drive in him," he murmured, admiration clear in his voice. "He's not just taking down robots. He's moving with focus and strategy. Look how he's targeting the points-heavy 3-pointers without hesitation." As he continued to observe, a faint sense of familiarity washed over him, lingering at the edges of his mind. Why does he seem so familiar? He wondered. All Might studied the boy's determined eyes, the sharp focus in every move, and the passion in his expression. Have we met somewhere before? The thought gnawed at him, but he couldn't quite place it. Perhaps it was simply a resemblance to another fan, or maybe the boy had crossed his path once in a crowd. But the nagging sense of recognition wouldn't leave him. Present Mike chuckled, leaning back with his usual enthusiasm. "I gotta say, All Might, it's exciting to see someone who can think on their feet like that. He's going after points, but he's doing it smartly, using the environment and his telekinesis to maximum effect." Recovery Girl nodded approvingly. "He must have put in some serious training. He's not just skilled, he's prepared. His tactical approach to each area is interesting as well," Nizu added. "He's taking advantage of every angle and opportunity, flying high, taking down robots without delay and clearing clusters when he can. All Might smiled, unable to contain his pride as he watched Izuku's unrelenting focus. It's as if he's built himself up for this moment. The heart of a hero is clear in his every action. If he keeps this up, he'll rank quite well. As the screens lit up with every takedown and points update, the teachers continued to watch with anticipation, knowing they were seeing the makings of someone with immense potential. The exam was nearing its end, and robots were becoming scarce as examinees had either destroyed or evaded most of them. Izuku took a quick scan of the mock city below, his sharp eyes searching for any remaining targets. Just as he was about to dive toward another point-scoring opportunity, the ground began to shake violently, and the sound of crumbling metal and concrete filled the air. The city itself seemed to be trembling. Izuku's gaze snapped upward, and his heart skipped a beat. A humongous robot loomed over the buildings, casting a massive shadow over the city streets. The Zero Pointer, a towering metal giant that dwarfed every structure around it. "Where was that thing hiding?" he muttered, eyes wide in awe and fear. Around him, examinees began to scream, their instincts kicking in as they scattered, sprinting in the opposite direction. Panic rippled through the students as they scrambled to escape. Izuku felt the urge to join them, his instincts telling him to fly straight for the entrance gates and away from the monstrous machine. But just as he began to turn, he heard a faint voice rise above the din, breaking through the chaos. "Help! Somebody, please help!" Izuku's head whipped around, his eyes searching frantically. Izuku's eyes locked onto a girl with short brown hair pinned under rubble, fear playing on her face as the colossal zero-pointer loomed closer. She was clearly trapped, her legs pinned beneath the heavy chunks of debris, and with each step of the massive robot, the ground quaked. Izuku glanced around, heart pounding, but the other examinees were too busy fleeing, none noticing the girl's distress. 2 minutes remaining. President Mick's voice blared, echoing throughout the city. The countdown was ticking. Izuku's muscles were burning from the strain of the exam, and fatigue was setting in. He was low on stamina, his wings aching from all the flying, and his telekinesis nearly drained from continuous use. But seeing the robot's gigantic foot looming closer and the girl's desperate look steeled his resolve. He couldn't leave her to face this alone. Taking a deep breath, he dove toward her. He focused, stretching out his hand as he used his telekinesis to shift the rubble off her legs, lifting each piece away carefully despite the trembling ground and advancing threat of the zero-pointer. The girl winced, but Izuku freed her legs just as the monstrous machine took another thunderous step, now only a foot away from them. "Come on, get up, we have to move," Izuku urged, but his mind raced with worry. Even if he managed to get her airborne, the zero-pointer could easily swipe them down mid-flight, or worse, hurt others still nearby. Determination hardened his gaze. Izuku released her and, gathering every ounce of strength he had, rocketed toward the enormous machine, his wings beating powerfully as he closed the distance. He extended his arms and unleashed a massive push with his telekinesis, feeling the strain of moving something so colossal. His muscles trembled, and a splitting headache pulsed as he forced the massive robot backward, shoving it just far enough away from the other students and the girl he had saved. He landed back beside her, retracting his wings to save his strength. His chest heaved, utterly exhausted, but as he glanced back at her, a sense of relief washed over him. And then, President Mick's announcement rang out. "Time's up. The practical exam is officially over." Izuku slumped down, his adrenaline fading, grateful he'd managed to protect her, and that the ordeal had finally ended. As the dust settled, Izuku looked down at the girl he had just saved, offering a warm smile. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. The girl nodded, wincing as she tried to sit up. "Yeah, I think I just sprained my ankle," she said, rubbing her leg. Then she looked back at him, curiosity lighting up her face. "Are you okay? That was intense. And your wings, where did they go?" "Oh, they retract," Izuku explained, chuckling a little despite his exhaustion. "I can use them when I need them, and tuck them away to save energy. I also have telekinesis, so I can push things away, but that's really exhausting too. He was catching his breath, still processing how close they'd come to real danger, but felt a little lighter sharing this part of himself. That's so cool, she smiled, her face lighting up with genuine excitement. Oh, my quirk is zero gravity. I can make things weightless just by touching them, but I guess I was too worn out to even think about using it on the rubble. Just then, Recovery Girl arrived, her eyes sweeping the area for injuries. She quickly noticed the girl's ankle and bent down, giving it a soft kiss. Instantly, the girl's face relaxed as her ankle began to heal. Recovery Girl turned to Izuku next, her eyes sharp and experienced. And what about you, young man? Any injuries? Izuku shook his head, his body feeling heavier with each passing second. No injuries, ma'am. I'm just really exhausted. With a warm chuckle, she handed him a small packet of gummies. Eat up, then. These will help restore some of your energy. Gratefully, Izuku popped one into his mouth, the sweetness bringing a bit of life back into him. Turning back to the girl, he extended a hand. By the way, I'm Izuku Midoriya. Thanks for, letting me practice some hero work. The girl laughed, shaking his hand warmly. I'm Ochako Uraraka. Thanks for saving me. And the hero work was pretty impressive. They exchanged phone numbers, both of them tired, but smiling, glad for the connection they'd made. As Izuku headed home after the exams, he felt his heart swell with excitement. He'd not only given his all today, but he'd also made a new friend, and the dream of becoming a hero felt a little closer. The teachers leaned forward as the zero-pointer closed in on Izuku and the girl trapped beneath the rubble. The hulking machine towered over them, its massive frame casting a dark, imposing shadow that made even the seasoned heroes tense up. Should we stop it? Midnight asked urgently, glancing at Nizu. That robot's far too close. It could crush them both in an instant. I agree, Cementos added. At this distance, it's too dangerous to leave it unchecked. They don't stand a chance. Nizu raised a paw, a small but confident smile playing on his face. Let's give him a moment. I think something interesting is about to happen. The teachers exchanged doubtful glances but held back, trusting Nizu's judgment, even as the zero-pointer loomed perilously close. In the observation booth, they watched the green-haired boy grit his teeth, steeling himself as he spread his wings wide, their span catching everyone's attention. Izuku took to the air, hovering close to the zero-pointer. Summoning every ounce of strength left, he extended his hands and released a focused burst of telekinetic force. The energy collided with the zero-pointer, its wheels grinding against the ground as it was pushed back, just far enough for him and the girl to escape. He's actually doing it. Present Mick's voice was almost a whisper, filled with awe. With one final surge, Izuku managed to repel the zero-pointer, creating a safe space. His wings folded as he landed near the girl, who thanked him with teary relief. Izuku, visibly exhausted, retracted his wings, catching his breath. In the observation room, a hush fell, broken only by a few stunned murmurs. All Might blinked, genuinely surprised. His wings, they can retract? Nizu's chuckle drew everyone's attention, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. A fascinating young man, wouldn't you say? Aizawa nodded, crossing his arms thoughtfully. He didn't hesitate for a second. That's the kind of instinct we want to see in future heroes. That's the essence of a true hero, Nizu said, watching the screens as Izuku helped the girl to her feet. To stand firm when others might flee. I think we found someone very special. The teachers watched in thoughtful silence as the green-haired boy, wings now hidden, finished helping the girl. The image of his determined face and unwavering spirit lingered in their minds, marking him as a promising new force among future heroes. After the exams, Izuku was bursting with excitement, hardly able to contain himself as he headed home, eager to tell his mom everything. As soon as he stepped through the door, his face lit up, his enthusiasm filling the room. "Mom, the exams were amazing," he exclaimed, practically bouncing. The written part was intense, but I think I did pretty well. And the practical? I fought so many robots. I saved a girl from the 0-pointer too. He beamed, a proud smile spreading across his face. And guess what? I made a new friend. Inko's eyes shone with pride as she listened to Izuku ramble. Oh, Izuku, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. I know you did good out there, and you will continue doing so. She gave him a warm hug, her heart swelling with joy and pride. You'll have to tell me everything. Every single detail. The next day, still buzzing with excitement, Izuku met Hawks at Dagobah Beach. As soon as he saw his mentor, Izuku's words tumbled out in a rush. Hawks, the exams were so intense. I managed to stay focused, and I scored points taking down robots. But then this giant 0-pointer appeared, and it was terrifying. He threw his hands up for emphasis, imitating the robot's towering size. But there was this girl trapped under rubble, so I flew over to help her. It was close, but I managed to push the 0-pointer back just in time. Hawks chuckled, ruffling Izuku's hair with pride. Slow down, little chickadee. I know you did great now. We just have to wait for your results. You're going to take the hero course with a storm. They spent the next few hours flying around the city, weaving between buildings and navigating rooftops, careful to stay out of sight of people below. Hawks, with his experience, made it look easy, and Izuku felt more alive than ever, soaring through the sky, each beat of his wings a reminder of just how far he'd come. Izuku had been on edge for a full week, anxiously waiting for his exam results. He tried to keep busy, but every day felt like it stretched endlessly. Then, one morning, his mom burst into his room, clutching an envelope with UA's emblem on it. "Izuku, it's here!" she exclaimed, her excitement matching his. They both sat down, nervous yet thrilled, as Izuku carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a small metal disc, and when he set it down, a holographic image of All Might appeared. Izuku's eyes widened, his heart pounding as All Might spoke. "Congratulations, young Midoriya," boomed All Might's voice. "You did exceptionally well in the written exam, and your performance in the practical was splendid. You scored a solid 65 villain points." Izuku's grin grew, but then All Might continued. "But that's not the only thing we were looking at. You also earned a total of 60 rescue points for your efforts in helping other examinees, including your heroic rescue of a fellow student from the 0-pointer. Izuku's jaw dropped as All Might went on. "With a combined score that puts you at the top of your class, you've secured a place in the Hero Course, Class 1A. And one more thing, young Midoriya, I'll be teaching at UA this year as the Heroics Instructor. Welcome to UA, young hero." The projection flickered out, leaving Izuku speechless. He turned to his mom, who was already tearing up with pride. They hugged tightly, his mom whispering, "I'm so proud of you, Izuku." The house was filled with laughter and celebration as Inko cooked his favorite katsudon to celebrate his incredible achievement. After the celebration with his mom, Izuku decided to let his mentor know the big news. Picking up his phone, he quickly typed out a message to Hawks, excitement practically buzzing through his fingers. "Izuku, hey Hawks, just got my UA exam results. I passed, got 65 villain points and 60 rescue points for saving some students from the 0-pointer. So I made it to Class 1A. A moment later, his phone vibrated with a reply from Hawks. "Hawks, hey, way to go, kid. Top points, too? I knew you had it in you. Those wings are really earning their keep. Just wait until you see what UA throws at you next." Winking face. "Izuku, thanks, Hawks. I couldn't have done it without your training." "Hawks, don't get sappy on me now, kid. Just keep flying high. Let me know when you're ready to hit the sky again. We'll need to keep you sharp if you want to outscore the rest of those first years." With a grin, Izuku felt an extra boost of confidence. Between his mom's pride and Hawks' encouragement, he knew he was ready for whatever UA had in store for him. As he lay in bed that night, Izuku couldn't help but smile, his heart swelling with excitement and hope for the future. The path to becoming a hero had begun, and he was ready for every step of the journey. At Aldera Junior High, Izuku and Bakugo were summoned to the principal's office. The principal greeted them with a warm smile, congratulating them both on passing UA's entrance exams. While Bakugo accepted the praise with his usual confident smirk, Izuku merely smiled politely. He knew the principal's congratulations were mostly for Bakugo, but Izuku didn't mind. He was just glad to leave middle school behind and move on to something better. Later, on his way home, Izuku was yanked into an alleyway by an enraged Bakugo, who was practically seething. "How did you manage to pass the UA entrance exams, Deku?" Bakugo spat. "You're quirkless. I was supposed to be the only one from this pathetic school to make it into UA." Izuku met Bakugo's furious glare, his heart racing. But for the first time, he felt a surge of confidence. He took a steadying breath and answered simply, "Same as you, Kaken. I took the entrance exams and passed." Bakugo stared at him, stunned, clearly not expecting Izuku to stand up for himself. With a calm determination, Izuku bumped Bakugo's shoulder as he walked past, leaving him speechless in the alley as he continued his way home. For the first time, Izuku felt the weight of Bakugo's words slip off his shoulders. He'd taken the first step toward the future he'd always dreamed of, and there was no going back. Izuku stood outside the door of Class 1, heart pounding as he prepared to take his first step toward becoming a hero. From inside, he could hear raised voices, and when he pushed the door open, he spotted a familiar figure. The blue-haired boy with glasses from the entrance exam was arguing with none other than Bakugo. "Take your dirty legs off the desk. You're disrespecting our fellow classmates who have used this desk before," the glasses-wearing boy lectured, karate chopping the air with precise movements. Izuku couldn't help but wonder if the guy had some kind of robotic hand problem, given how rigidly he moved. "I could do what I want, glasses," Bakugo replied with his typical scowl, clearly unbothered. The blue-haired boy, unfazed, introduced himself formally. "I am Tenya Ida from Somei Junior High School." The two continued bickering, neither one backing down. As Izuku attempted to quietly make his way to his desk, hoping to avoid the confrontation, Ida spotted him. He immediately turned and addressed Izuku, still stiffly moving his hands with each word. "I see. You must be the boy who impressed us all with that bold strategy in the entrance exam," he declared, bowing. Izuku quickly replied with a slight nod. Yeah, and I just heard your name a moment ago." Just then, the familiar face of Ochako Uraraka entered the room, her eyes lighting up when she saw Izuku. "Oh, hey, Deku. You made it in," she said, waving cheerfully. Before they could get much further, a bright yellow caterpillar-looking thing appeared in the doorway, slowly inching its way into the classroom. The students' initial confusion turned into surprise as they realized it was a person, wrapped snugly in a sleeping bag. The figure unzipped the bag, revealing a tired-looking man with messy hair. "Good morning, Class 1A. I'm Shota Aizawa. I'll be your homeroom teacher for the next 3 years." He spoke in a low, almost lazy tone, eyeing them with a calculating gaze. Aizawa handed out cases to each student, his expression as unreadable as ever. "Change into these and meet me outside the training grounds," he said simply, then left without another word. The students hurried to the lockers, finding that the cases contained UA gym uniforms. After changing, they rushed outside to join Aizawa, who waited with a clipboard and an impatient expression. "It took you 5 minutes to get here. We'll need to reduce that time." He scanned the students, as if assessing each one, then continued, "Today we're doing a quirk apprehension test." Ochako raised her hand, hesitant. "But what about the entrance ceremony?" Aizawa's gaze shifted to her, his tone blunt. "We're here to train heroes, not for ceremonies. You have 3 years to learn everything about heroics, and that means no wasting time on non-essential activities." He continued, listing the events. "You'll be performing a series of physical tests, each one designed to measure your capabilities and assess your quirks. The tests will include the 50-meter dash, grip strength, standing long jump, repeated side steps, and a ball throw." Several students exchanged excited glances, murmuring about the challenges ahead. Aizawa wasn't done, however. "We'll also have a distance run, seated toe touch, and sit-ups. I expect you to put everything you have into each event." The students readied themselves, excitement and nerves mixing as they prepared to showcase their quirk for the first time in a formal setting. This was their first real step into hero training at UA. Izawa called Bakugo forward, his expression stoic. "Bakugo, how far could you throw a ball in middle school?" Bakugo shrugged. "Around 65 meters, he replied, hands already twitching with anticipation. Izawa nodded toward a designated circle. "Now stand in that circle and throw the ball using your quirk. Do whatever you need to maximize the throw, just don't leave the circle." With a fierce grin, Bakugo took the ball, eyes gleaming as he felt the thrill of showing off. "Die!" he yelled, propelling the ball forward with a powerful explosion from his palm. It shot through the air, soaring far beyond where anyone expected, before finally landing. Izawa held up the reading for all to see. 705 meters. "Whoa!" A girl with pink skin, hair, and horns jumped in excitement. "That looks so fun." Izawa's expression darkened at her comment, instantly halting her enthusiasm. "Fun, huh? Well, here's a bit of reality for you." His gaze swept across the class, his tone turning cold and serious. "The last student in these tests will be expelled." Shocked murmurs broke out among the students, and some tried to argue, visibly shaken by the idea of expulsion on the first day. "Life is unfair," Izawa continued, cutting off their protests. "If you want to be heroes, get used to it. This is a profession that requires you to go beyond your limits. If you don't take it seriously from the start, you have no place here." Izuku clenched his fists, absorbing Izawa's words. They hit home with a harsh truth he knew too well, understanding that the path to being a hero wasn't easy or forgiving. The tests continued with each student showcasing their unique quirks and skills, adding some intense competition to the evaluations. 50-meter dash. The first test, the 50-meter dash, set the bar high with some impressive speeds. Tenya Ida sped forward with his engine legs, clocking in at 3.04 seconds. Shoto Todoroki glided on a path of ice, finishing in 3.17 seconds. Izuku Midoriya used his wings and telekinetic boosts, clocking in at 3.34 seconds. Grip strength. Grip strength brought out the powerhouse students. Mizo Shoji took first place, using his 6 muscular arms to reach a whopping 540 kilograms. Momo Yarozu came close with 300 kilograms, thanks to her resourceful creation quirk. Izuku impressed the class by using his telekinesis to support his grip, reaching 240 kilograms. Standing long jump. The standing long jump showed off some quirky moves. Izuku used a telekinetic burst to help him cover the full sandbox as well. Repeated side steps. The repeated side steps required agility and fast movement. Minoru Mineta dominated, bouncing back and forth rapidly with the aid of his sticky, bouncy ball. Izuku kept up with steady bursts of telekinetic energy to keep his momentum, ranking high. Ball throw. For the ball throw, Bakugo's explosive toss had set a high bar with 705 meters. However, several other students made their mark. Achiko Uraraka threw the ball, and, with her quirk, it soared out of sight, earning her an infinity result. Izuku used his telekinesis to control the ball's flight and pushed it forward as far as he could, reaching 800 meters, placing him second in this event. Final rankings. When Izawa presented the rankings, the results were as follows. 1. Momo Yaoyorozu. 2. Shoto Todoroki. 3. Izuku Midoriya. 4. Bakugo Katsuki. 5. Tenya Ida. Izuku was thrilled, both with his placement and with his control over his quirk during each test. The last place holder went to the Invisible Girl. By the end, no one was expelled. "It was a logical ruse to make you perform at your best," said Mr. Izawa. However, as the results appeared, Bakugo could hardly contain his fury. He stormed toward Izuku, his fists crackling with explosions. "Where did you get a quirk, Deku?" he yelled, lunging forward. Before he could get any closer, Izawa activated his erasure quirk, neutralizing Bakugo's explosions midair, then bound him tightly with his capture weapon. "That's enough, Bakugo," he said in a calm, cold voice. There's no room for childish tantrums in my class. The class fell silent, taken aback by Aizawa's swift intervention. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief, grateful for his teacher's quick response. Aizawa's lesson was clear. There would be no tolerance for disruptions, and everyone would have to earn their place fairly. After the quirk apprehension test, the students returned to class, where Aizawa had wrapped himself in his sleeping bag, leaving them with some free time. They decided to go around the room, introducing themselves and describing their quirks, eager to get to know one another. Each student went in turn by their seat number. When it was Katsuki Bakugo's turn, he stood with his usual scowl. Name's Katsuki Bakugo. Quirk, explosion. I'm going to be the top hero. Don't get in my way. He returned to his seat, issuing his challenge to the class, leaving most of the students in uncomfortable silence. Next was Izuku Midoriya. He took a deep breath, trying to shake off Bakugo's harsh attitude, and stepped forward confidently. Hi, everyone. I'm Izuku Midoriya. My quirk is called Feather Force. He extended his green feathered wings, showing their full span before retracting them again. He continued, My wings let me fly, and I also have telekinesis. One of the students raised a hand, asking, about that. Bakugo kind of made a scene earlier about you not having a quirk before. What was that about? Izuku nodded, understanding the curiosity. I was actually a late bloomer. I had a dormant quirk factor until about 10 months ago. When it finally activated, I had to train really hard to learn control. It's been a long process, and for personal reasons, I didn't tell anyone at my previous school when my quirk manifested. Hearing Izuku's explanation, several students looked at him with newfound respect, understanding the hard work he must have put in over the past several months. After his introduction, Achiko Uraraka gave him a friendly smile, while Tenya Ida offered him a respectful nod, admiring his determination. The introductions continued, but Izuku felt a bit lighter, realizing that, even with Bakugo's outburst, he'd managed to hold his own and gain acceptance from his new classmates. This was a fresh start, and he felt excited about the journey ahead at UA. Class 1A students list by seat number. 1. Yuga Aoyama, quirk, naval laser. Yuga explained, with a dramatic pose, that he could shoot a laser beam from his navel, though overuse would give him a stomachache. 2. Mina Ishido, quirk, acid. Mina cheerfully described how she could secrete and control acid from her skin, adjusting its solubility and corrosiveness. 3. Suyu Ajui, quirk, frog. Suyu introduced herself, in her calm tone, explaining that her quirk gave her the abilities and characteristics of a frog. 4. Tenya Ida, quirk, engine. Standing tall and serious, Ida explained that he had engine-like protrusions on his legs, allowing him to move at high speeds. 5. Achiko Uraraka, quirk, zero gravity. With a friendly smile, Achiko described her ability to make objects weightless by touching them, though she had to be careful not to overdo it. 6. Mashireo Ojiro, quirk, tail. Ojiro, the stoic martial artist, explained that his quirk was his powerful, prehensile tail, which he used for combat. 7. Denki Kaminari, quirk, electrification. Denki enthusiastically demonstrated his ability to generate electricity, but mentioned he could short-circuit if he used too much. 8. Eijiro Kirishima, quirk, hardening. With a thumbs up, Kirishima explained his hardening quirk, which made his body incredibly tough and durable in battle. 9. Koji Koda, quirk, Oni voice. In a quiet voice, Koda explained that he could communicate with and command animals through his quirk. 10. Rikido Sato, quirk, sugar rush. Rikido explained that he gained super strength by consuming sugar, though it caused him to tire quickly once the effect wore off. 11. Mizo Shoji, quirk, dupli arms. Shoji calmly described how he could replicate his limbs using his unique quirk, giving him extra arms, eyes, or ears. 12. Kyokajiro, quirk, earphone jack. Kyoka showed off her earphone jacks, extending from her earlobes, explaining that she could plug them into objects to channel sound waves. 13. Hantasiro, quirk, tape. Siro cheerfully explained how he could produce tape from his elbows, using it to swing or bind things. 14. Fumikage Tokoyami, Quirk, Dark Shadow. Tokoyami introduced his quirk as Dark Shadow, a sentient shadowy figure he could summon, though it was harder to control in the dark. 15. Shoto Todoroki Quirk, Half Cold, Half Hot. Todoroki spoke coolly about his dual-element quirk, with ice on his right side and fire on his left, though he mentioned he didn't use the fire side often. 16. Toru Hagakure Quirk, Invisibility. Toru's cheerful voice filled the room as she explained that her entire body was invisible, making her ideal for stealth. 17. Katsuki Bakugo Quirk, Explosion. Bakugo's introduction was as intense as his personality, explaining his quirk, Explosion, which allowed him to create blasts from his sweat on his palms. 18. Izuku Midoriya Quirk, Feather Force. Izuku spoke confidently, explaining his wings and telekinesis, which allowed him to fly and push or pull object with his telekinesis. 19. Minoru Mineta Quirk, Pop Off. Mineta chuckled as he explained his unique quirk, which allowed him to pluck adhesive ball from his head, sticking to anything except himself. 20. Momo Yaozu Quirk, Creation. Momo's introduction was graceful and informative, describing her ability to create objects from her body as long as she understood their molecular structure. After introductions were complete, the students had a better sense of each other's quirks, strengths, and personalities. On their second day at UA, Class 1A was buzzing with excitement as they waited for their first Heroic Basics lesson. The tension broke as soon as they heard loud, thunderous footsteps from the hallway. The door flew open, and in burst All Might, striking his usual pose and beaming smile. "I'm coming through the door, like a normal person," he announced with a grin that left most of the students awestruck. The class gawked in amazement, except for Izuku, Shoto, and Bakugo, who, each in their own way, tried to keep their reactions cool. All Might, with his characteristic energy, introduced the day's lesson as a foundation for their hero journey. The exercise would take place at Ground Beta, and it would be their first step in real hero training. He then handed out briefcases to each student, announcing that their hero costumes were ready and urging them to change quickly. The anticipation grew as they donned their suits, each one customized to reflect their unique quirks and personalities. In their suits, they gathered in the observation booth, where All Might went over the exercise, a mock battle. The students would be paired into teams of 2, with one team assigned the role of heroes and the other as villains. The villain's task was to hide a bomb inside a building, while the heroes needed to locate and secure it by touching it or capturing the villains. Victory for the villains would be achieved by capturing the hero team or if the time ran out. Students immediately raised their hands, eager to choose their own partners. All Might, however, explained that teams will be chosen randomly by drawing lots. Ida voiced concerns about pairing, suggesting it might be better if they chose based on compatibility. Izuku chimed in, explaining, "Heroes sometimes have to work with people they don't know or usually wouldn't partner with. Part of being a hero is adapting and cooperating no matter who you're with." With the groups chosen by lottery, All Might explain the remaining details, reading diligently from a small notepad as the students prepared mentally for their first true test in the path of heroism. Team A, Heroes, Izuku Midoriya and Achiko Uraraka. Team B, Villains, Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Team C, Heroes, Shoto Todoroki and Momo Yaoyorozu. Team D, Villains, Mina Ishido and Rikido Sato. Team E, Heroes, Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Ajui. Team F, Villains, Denki Kaminari and Kyokujiro. Team G, Heroes, Eijiro Kirishima and Hanashiro. Team H, Villains, Mizo Shoji and Minoru Mineta. Team I, Heroes, Yuga Aoyama and Toru Hagakure. Team J, Villains, Mashireo Ojiro and Koji Koda. After drawing lots, Izuku knew he was in for a fierce encounter with Bakugo. Even as they stepped out of the observation booth, he could feel Bakugo's glare fixed on him, practically radiating hostility. But Izuku kept his focus. He wasn't going to let Bakugo shake his determination. As the villain team disappeared into the building to hide their bomb, Izuku and Uraraka quickly gathered outside the structure to plan their approach. "I'm positive Bakugo won't stick with Ida once this starts," Izuku began. "He'll come after me the minute he gets the chance." Uraraka frowned. "Do you have a plan to defeat him?" Izuku nodded, wings stretching slightly in preparation. "If I make my way in from above, I can use my telekinesis and my wings to avoid him, but Bakugo's smart. He'll expect that. If we're predictable, he'll find a way to intercept me midair. Instead, let's go in through the third-story window instead of straight to the top." Uraraka's eyes lit up. "You'll fly us in?" "Yeah, I'll carry you if you make yourself weightless, and we'll go through the window instead of the roof. You'll get a head start, so you can take on Ida and leave Bakugo to me." She gave him a thumbs up. "Let's do it, Midoriya." Meanwhile, inside the building, Ida and Bakugo were supposed to be setting up defenses around the bomb, which was stashed in a reinforced corner of the top floor. However, Bakugo seemed uninterested in any plan involving Ida. "We need a logical layout for defense points," Ida was saying, adjusting his glasses. "It's essential we maintain our positions and protect the bomb by guarding this area." Bakugo just scoffed, arms crossed. "You go ahead and guard if you want. I know exactly how to handle this." Ida frowned. "If you abandon the mission objective, you'll jeopardize our chances of winning." "Winning?" Bakugo's fists crackled with explosive energy. "This isn't about winning. This is about me showing that Demon Deku his place. Just guard the bomb, Four Eyes." Without another word, Bakugo stormed off, leaving Ida standing alone by the bomb. 10 minutes passed. "Villains, your setup time is over. Heroes, you may begin." All Might's voice echoed over the speakers. With a final nod, Uraraka tapped her fingers together, activating her zero-gravity quirk on herself, and Izuku scooped her up, wings unfurling as he lifted them toward the third-story window. They entered quietly, with Uraraka landing softly on her feet as Izuku retracted his wings. "You ready?" he whispered. Uraraka nodded. "I'll head toward Ida's position." "Good luck, Izuku." They separated, with Uraraka heading to confront Ida, while Izuku stayed alert for Bakugo, knowing he wouldn't waste a second to track him down. Izuku didn't have to wait long. Bakugo charged down the hall, his footsteps echoing as he closed in on Izuku's position. Without hesitation, Bakugo threw a powerful right hook, a move Izuku knew all too well, having seen it countless times back in middle school. Easily sidestepping the attack, Izuku maintained a calm focus, knowing Bakugo would only get angrier if he kept dodging. "Oh, think you're clever, Deku?" Bakugo sneered, already moving to launch another assault. "It's not going to work." Izuku took a step back, gauging his options. The narrow hallway limited their movement, but that was to his advantage. He didn't need to fly or rely on fancy maneuvers here. Instead, he subtly activated his telekinesis, waiting for the perfect opening. Just as Bakugo charged forward again, Izuku gave a small, focused push with his quirk, causing Bakugo's feet to slip, throwing him off balance. In that split second, Izuku used his telekinesis to lift Bakugo off the floor and, with a forceful motion, flung him through the window. He knew Bakugo would survive the fall and could control his landing with his explosions, but the move bought him the time he needed to join Uraraka. Elsewhere, Uraraka had managed to reach Ida's position, only to find him pacing back and forth in front of the bomb, attempting to put on his best villain face. "Yes, heroes," Ida announced to the empty room, gesturing dramatically. "You have no chance against the might of Ingenium's evil counterpart. Surrender or face my wrath." Uraraka stifled a laugh but couldn't help a quiet snicker that escaped, instantly alerting Ida. His head snapped up, spotting her just as she tried to recover her composure. "Oh, it's you," Ida exclaimed, regaining his stance. "You'll find this room is completely empty of anything you can manipulate. I've planned carefully to neutralize your quirk." Uraraka grinned. I see that, but that doesn't mean I can't get close. She darted forward, aiming to touch him with her quirk, but Ida was fast and dodged her attempts with precise, efficient movements. They danced around the room, with Ida staying just out of reach while Uraraka tried to close the gap. Just then, Izuku arrived, stepping into the room with his eyes locked on the bomb. He quickly assessed the situation, catching Uraraka's eye as they shared a nod of understanding. Teamwork, huh? Ida noted, glancing between the two of them. A wise choice, but it won't be enough. Without wasting another second, Izuku focused his telekinesis on the bomb, pulling it across the room toward him. Ida tried to intercept, launching forward with his engines at full speed, but Izuku sidestepped just in time, pulling the bomb in his grasp and touching it to claim victory. The room went silent as All Might's voice boomed over the speakers. The hero team wins. At that exact moment, Bakugo burst into the room, his eyes blazing with fury. Seeing Izuku holding the bomb and realizing his team had lost, his rage boiled over. Deku, you think you've won? He aimed the gauntlet at Izuku and Uraraka without a second thought. The blast erupted, filling the room with smoke and a deafening roar. Izuku reacted instantly, straining his telekinesis to create a shield, but the sheer force was too much. The explosion threw him backward, slamming him hard against the wall as the impact reverberated through the room. As the dust and smoke cleared, Bakugo's face fell when he saw Izuku crumpled against the wall. Realizing the extent of what he'd done, his glare wavered, shock replacing his anger. Just then, All Might burst into the room, positioning himself firmly between Bakugo and the others to prevent further escalation. Young Bakugo, that is enough. All Might's voice was stern, his gaze unwavering. Bakugo's jaw tightened, a flicker of something unreadable in his expression. Without another word, he turned sharply on his heel and stomped out of the building, the echoes of his footsteps fading down the hallway. Meanwhile, Ida helped Izuku up, supporting him as they made their way to Recovery Girl's office. Izuku winced, feeling the strain of the blast, but grateful for his quick reaction, which had kept his teammates safe. As they walked, Ida gave Izuku an approving nod. You handled that well, Midoriya. It's impressive to see such quick thinking in the middle of a tough situation. Izuku managed a small smile, still catching his breath. Thanks, Ida. I just did what I thought a hero should do. Uraraka joined them, patting Izuku on the back. You save us all back there, Izuku. That was amazing. Izuku's cheeks flushed slightly, but he felt a warmth of pride in his chest. Despite the pain, he knew that today was a step forward, a step toward becoming the kind of hero he'd always dreamed of. Izuku made his way back to the viewing area, still feeling a bit weary, but determined to watch the remaining matches. As he took his seat, Kirishima and Kaminari leaned over with concerned looks. Hey man, you good? Kirishima asked, giving Izuku a thumbs up. Yeah, Recovery Girl fixed me up, Izuku replied with a small smile. Just a bit tired, but I'm fine. All Might then addressed the class, asking, who do you think was the MVP of this match? Momo quickly raised her hand. Midoriya. He anticipated how Bakugo would react and avoided spending too much time engaging him in a direct fight. By incapacitating him quickly, Midoriya could join Uraraka and help her reach the bomb, successfully completing the objective. He balanced his combat strategy with the mission goal. The class murmured in agreement, and even All Might gave an approving nod. An insightful answer, Yaoyorozu. Keep in mind that thinking on your feet is crucial in the field. The rest of the matches continued, each pairing showcasing the unique strengths and quirks of the students. Team C, Heroes, Shoto Todoroki and Momo Yazu, versus Team D, Villains, Mina Ishido and Rikido Sato. Todoroki and Yaoyorozu made an impressive team, with Todoroki quickly freezing the building's entrance and corridors to limit movement. Yaoyorozu then used her quirk to produce insulation and protection against Mina's acid. Despite Sato's enhanced strength, he struggled with Todoroki's relentless ice. Together, Todoroki's defensive tactics and Momo's adaptability helped them secure a swift victory, as they incapacitated the villains before they could defend the bomb. Team E heroes, Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsu Ajui, versus Team F villains, Denki Kaminari and Kyokujiro. Tokoyami's Dark Shadow gave the heroes a significant advantage, shielding them from Kaminari's electricity and Jiro's sound attacks. Tsu used her agility to sneak past Jiro's scouting attempts and get closer to the bomb. Despite Kaminari's strong electric output, Dark Shadow neutralized most attacks, and Tokoyami coordinated well with Tsu to retrieve the bomb efficiently, resulting in a win for the heroes. Team G heroes, Eijiro Kurishima and Hanta Siro, versus Team H villains, Mizo Shoji and Minoru Mineta. This match was a display of endurance and creativity. Shoji's multi-limb quirk allowed him to hold off Kirishima's hardened attacks, while Mineta used his sticky ball to set traps throughout the building. Siro tried to maneuver around with his tape to avoid the traps, while Kirishima kept Shoji occupied. After a long struggle, Shoji's quick thinking and Mineta's strategic traps gave the villains the upper hand, securing their win. Team I heroes, Yuga Aoyama and Toru Hagakure, versus Team J villains, Mashreo, Ojiro, and Koji Koda. Hagakure's invisibility made it challenging for Ojiro and Koda to track her movements, while Aoyama used his laser to create distractions. However, Koda summoned small animals to help locate their invisible foe, and Ojiro's martial arts skills made it difficult for Aoyama to get close to the bomb. With coordination and patience, Team J managed to defend the bomb successfully, granting the villains a win. Each match showcased a variety of quirks, strategies, and teamwork, giving the students valuable insight into their peers' capabilities and their own strengths and weaknesses. As Izuku approached UA the next morning, he immediately noticed a large group of reporters outside the gates. They were pressing students for details about All Might, who had only recently begun teaching at UA. Just as he tried to slip by quietly, a reporter spotted him. "You, young man, do you know All Might personally? Is he a good teacher?" One reporter shouted. Izuku flinched, suddenly surrounded by cameras and voices, all eagerly pushing for his response. He stammered, trying to think of a polite response, but before he could speak, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. "Move aside. You're disturbing the students. They need to get to class." Aizawa-sensei stepped in, his cold glare enough to make the reporters flinch and create space for Izuku to escape the chaos. "Save your questions for the press briefings," he added before steering Izuku and the other students back toward the gate. Thank you, sensei," Izuku mumbled, still catching his breath. "Don't waste time outside next time. Go straight to class." Aizawa's tone was as flat as ever, but Izuku caught a hint of amusement in his gaze. The rest of the day passed quietly with their usual classes until the end of the morning, when Aizawa gathered the students for an announcement. "Listen up," he said. "We need a class representative and vice representative to handle student issues and act as a liaison between teachers and the class. Decide amongst yourselves." Before Aizawa could say another word, the room erupted into chaos. "I should be class rep. I'm the best pick," Kaminari shouted, grinning. "No way. Pick me," Siro said, raising his hand high. Everyone seemed to want the role, each shouting over the other in their eagerness. Meanwhile, Izuku, sitting toward the back, watched in surprise at how quickly his classmates had burst into excitement. Lita, however, looked deeply frustrated by the disorder. Raising his voice, Ida suggested, "Classmates, this is not the way a group of heroes in training should decide leadership. We should resolve this fairly, with a vote." Mina looked skeptical. "But, Ida, won't everyone just vote for themselves? It won't really work." Ida shook his head. "Not everyone here is interested in the responsibility of being a class representative. Those who do not wish to take on the role will vote for someone they believe is most capable. The goal of this position isn't popularity. It's about leadership, responsibility, and acting as a bridge between us and the teachers." The class seemed to consider Ida's suggestion. Momo stepped up and handed out small slips of paper for everyone to cast their votes. Once they finished, they tallied the results on the board. Izuku blinked in surprise when he saw his name at the top with 5 votes. Momo stood next to him as the vice representative with 2 votes. They both stepped to the front of the class, Izuku standing nervously as his classmates applauded. Aizawa, watching from his desk, gave them a single nod. Good. Now that that's settled, let's move on with our schedule. During lunch, Izuku joined Achiko and Ida in the mess hall. He still seemed unsure about his new position and expressed his worries as they sat down. I don't know if I can do it, Izuku admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm not used to leading people. What if I mess up? Ida gave him a firm pat on the shoulder. Midoriya, I voted for you because you've already shown the traits of a leader. During the entrance exam, you acted on instinct to help others. A true hero and leader puts others first. Achiko nodded in agreement. I think you'll do great, Izuku. You're always thinking about everyone and how to help. So this fits you perfectly. Izuku's confidence lifted a little with his friend's encouragement. He turned to Ida and noted his formal, respectful posture. Curious, Achiko asked, Hey, Ida, what's with this serious vibe you've got going on? Is this a family thing? Ida hesitated, visibly uncomfortable about the topic. Well, yes, actually, he admitted. My family is known in the hero world. My elder brother is the turbo hero ingenium. Achiko's eyes went wide with amazement. Wow, that's incredible. So you're like a hero legacy? Ida looked away, embarrassed. Yes, but please don't let it change anything. I want to earn my place here, not rely on my family name. Before they could continue, a loud, blaring alarm sounded throughout the building. The students froze in shock, and the cafeteria erupted into a buzz of alarmed voices. A third-year student passed by and informed them. That's an intruder alert. Someone managed to bypass the UA defenses. The news threw the entire mess hall into chaos, with students rushing to the exits all at once. In the crush of people, Izuku, Achiko, and Ida were nearly swept away by the crowd. Pressed against a window in the frantic mass of students, Izuku looked out and saw, to his surprise, the reporters from earlier. They had somehow broken through the school's security system and were swarming the grounds outside. Izuku quickly realized the situation wasn't truly dangerous. He turned to Achiko, calling out over the commotion, Uraraka, make me weightless. Understanding his plan, she tapped his shoulder, and Izuku floated up above the crowded students. Releasing his wings, he caught the attention of the room as his wings spread out. He cleared his throat and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Everyone, it's just the media. They aren't a real threat to us. Please calm down and return to your seats. We aren't in immediate danger. Slowly, the panic subsided as the students began calming down and filing out in an orderly way, realizing it wasn't a serious threat. When Izuku touched down and rejoined his friends, Achiko gave him a high five. You did it, class rep, she said with a grin. As they walked back to the classroom, Ida looked thoughtful. It's strange, though. How did the reporters manage to get past UA's security? The barriers are supposed to be state-of-the-art. Izuku nodded, troubled. Yeah, that security system shouldn't fail this easily. Someone must have helped them, or they found a weakness. The incident left him unsettled, his thoughts lingering on the breach. If reporters could slip through, who else might be able to enter? Early that morning, Aizawa-sensei announced to Class 1A that they'd be heading to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, USJ, for rescue training. He gave them the option to wear their hero costumes, which many of the students, including Izuku, chose to do. As they boarded the bus, Izuku glanced at his hero costume, double-checking his emergency supply pouch and his extendable bow staff strapped securely at his side. You always have to be prepared for anything in heroics, he thought to himself. Once everyone was settled, the bus took off with Aizawa seated at the front, and the students quickly began chatting among themselves. Midoriya, I always speak my mind, Karo, he suddenly said from across the aisle, catching everyone's attention. Your quirk seems really strong. How does it work? It's like you have 2 separate quirks. Izuku paused for a moment, considering how best to explain. Well, I don't know everything about my quirk, yet since it only showed up less than a year ago. But for what I understand, it's a mix of a transformation and emitter type, he explained. When my wings first emerged, I thought it was a mutation quirk. But because I can retract my wings, I realized it's more of a transformation. It costs me energy to use, so I can't keep them out all the time, or I'd get exhausted. He motioned to his wings folded neatly behind him. The telekinesis part seems to come from my mom. Hers is pretty weak, but I think I can use my energy to amplify it a bit. Kirishima grinned and gave him a thumbs up. That's so cool, Midobro. Your quirk's awesome. You're going to be super popular with something like that. Izuku chuckled, a bit embarrassed. Thanks, but don't sell yourself short, Kirishima. Your quirk's amazing, too. You can take hits that others can't. And if you keep training, you could probably withstand All Might's punches without breaking a sweat. Kirishima's eyes lit up with excitement. Whoa, you really think so? Definitely. Izuku replied. I had to train super hard just to keep up since most of my classmates had their quirks from a young age. Wait, you had a mentor? Kaminari jumped in eagerly. Did they give you any tips? Izuku scratched his head, remembering the grueling training he went through. Let's just say my mentor really put me to work. I trained at Dagobah Beach, and my mentor, well, that's a secret for now, but I had to do a lot to build up my quirk and my body. It wasn't easy. Wait, Dagobah Beach? The one that was covered in piles of trash. Kaminari asked, eyes wide. You mean all that junk? You trained by cleaning it. Siro chimed in, looking shocked. Dude, that place was practically a landfill. No wonder you're so strong. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck, a little embarrassed but also proud. Yeah, it was intense. My mentor had me clear every bit of it in just 10 months. Ashido's jaw dropped. 10 months? I've seen that beach. That's insane, Midoriya. You must have been working every day nonstop. Kirishima grinned, clearly impressed. Now, that is manly. You took on a challenge most people wouldn't even think of. Respect, Midobro. Tio blinked in her usual calm way, but gave a slight nod. Cleaning an entire beach is like training on hard mode. Karo, you must have built a lot of endurance. Yeah, and patience too, Izuku admitted, smiling. But it helped me get stronger, and now I can use my quirk in new ways because of it. Bakugo, who had been listening in from his seat in the back, let out a small tsh and crossed his arms, looking out the window. Though he didn't say anything, his expression betrayed a flicker of acknowledgement, even if he'd never admit it. Man, Midoriya, Kaminari laughed. I don't think I could last 10 minutes of that kind of training, let alone 10 months. The conversation shifted as Azui and Kaminari started teasing Bakugo, who sat brooding in the back. Bakugo, with your attitude, you're going to have a tough time winning people over, Azui said bluntly, making a few students snicker. Bakugo shot them a death glare. I don't need to win anyone over. I'll be number one because I'm the best. End of story. Just then, Aizawa interrupted the conversation from the front of the bus. Listen up, brats. We're here. They filed out of the bus and into the USJ building, their excitement growing as they looked around. The facility was massive, filled with carefully constructed disaster zones designed to test rescue and hero skills in a controlled environment. Pro Hero 13, a spacesuited hero with a mastery over black holes, waited at the entrance to greet them. Welcome to the USJ, 13 said, waving. Today's training will focus on search and rescue operations. These scenarios will test your ability to save civilians while minimizing harm. As heroes, your power should never be used to harm others, but to help them. My quirk, Black Hole, is incredibly dangerous, so I have to be extra cautious when using it around civilians. The students listened intently, some murmuring to each other as they took in the scale of the facility. This place is huge. It's like a whole city in here, Siro remarked, looking around. I could see a mountain, a flood zone, even a fire area. Yairza noted, observing the various zones. 13 continued. Remember, this exercise isn't about fighting. It's about controlling your quirks to help others safely and effectively. Izuku's eyes were bright with excitement. This is going to be intense. As the students gathered around to listen to 13th's instructions, Aizawa glanced around, clearly noticing the absence of All Might. With a frown, he turned to 13. "Where's All Might? He was supposed to be here for this." 13 held up 3 fingers, whispering, "He's a little preoccupied, but he'll join us later." 13th's eyes seemed to flash with meaning as they subtly gestured. Izuku noticed the gesture, tilting his head with curiosity. Was there some kind of code between teachers? He wondered if this was something deeper, maybe a way heroes communicated secretly. Just as he was mulling it over, Siro piped up, half joking, "Is the exercise already starting? Feels kind of intense." Kaminari grinned. "Yeah, look at that. Did you hire actors for extra realism or something?" He pointed down toward the central fountain, where a strange, purplish swirl was forming and growing. Aizawa's demeanor turned sharp. His eyes locked onto the portal, tension radiating from him. "What?" His voice was a low warning as he scanned the area. Izuku's stomach twisted when he saw people starting to step out of the misty portal. At first, it looked like an oddly orchestrated part of the exercise, but then his eyes landed on a figure with disheveled hair, hands covering his body, and another creature, large, hulking, with a bird-like beak and an exposed brain. Chills raced down Izuku's spine. The air around them felt ominous. "They're real villains," Aizawa said, his voice steely. 13, protect the students. Don't let them get close." Without another word, he put on his goggles, tightened his scarf, and leaped over the ledge to confront the intruders. The reality of the situation hit hard as the students' faces reflected growing horror and fear. "These are real villains?" Tsuyu whispered, her usually calm voice tense. Mina, visibly shaken, muttered, "Why would they come here? This is a school." Kirishima clenched his fists. "This is insane. Are they really here to attack us?" 13 tried to keep calm, ushering them back. "Everyone, get back to the entrance now." But before they could retreat, a dark, ominous mist blocked their path. The fog swirled, then began to shape into a figure, a tall man with a smoky purple form and piercing yellow eyes. He bowed slightly, voice low and polite, yet chilling. "Pardon the intrusion, hero hopefuls. I am Kirojiri, of the League of Villains. We've come here today on a mission. You see, we're here to kill All Might." A shiver ran down the students' spines as the gravity of his words sank in. Izuku's mind raced, trying to think of a plan, but fear gripped him. He looked over at Ida, whispering urgently, "Ida, you need to run and get help. You're the fastest among us. You can make it back to the teachers." Ida's face was filled with worry, but he nodded, realizing the weight of the responsibility. But before Ida could make a break for it, Kirojiri continued, his form expanding and swirling outwards, blocking any possible escape. But I cannot allow you to simply run away." His form grew larger, spreading out to envelop them. "My mission includes ensuring that you are properly dispersed." Kirishima gritted his teeth, his fists hardening to a rock-like texture. "Not a chance. We're not just going to sit here." Beside him, Bakugo's hands crackled with explosions. "I don't know who you think you are, but if you want to fight, I'll show you one." Without hesitation, he lunged at Kirojiri, his explosions sparking as he threw a fierce punch. But as Bakugo and Kirishima charged, they passed right through him, their attacks dissolving into the mist. Kirojiri's voice echoed, mocking, "How naive. If you'd studied more, perhaps you'd know what I am." Before anyone could react, Kirojiri's mist expanded even further, enveloping the students in darkness. In the final seconds before being swallowed, Izuku shouted to Ida, "Run, Ida! You're our only chance for help." Then, everything went black as Kirojiri's quirk took hold, pulling the students into various parts of the facility, separating them for the villain's plan. As the darkness cleared, Izuku found himself plummeting through the air. He barely had time to process the drop before he noticed water below, teeming with dark shapes moving beneath the surface. Without hesitation, he spread his wings, catching the air just in time to halt his fall and hover above the water. "Thank goodness," he thought, as he scanned the area and realized the figures below were villains, all with various aquatic mutations. Nearby, he spotted Azui and Mineta huddled on a partially submerged ship. Wasting no time, he flew over and landed beside them, quickly retracting his wings to conserve energy. "Is anyone else here?" he asked, glancing around. "No, just you, me, and Mineta, Karo," Azui replied. Izuku looked around cautiously. "It seems that Mist villain teleported us all into different zones to be ambushed by villains. We're going to die," Mineta cried, his voice shaking as he trembled. Azui's expression grew serious, and without hesitation, she slapped Mineta with her tongue. "Get yourself together, Mineta. We need to come up with a plan if we're going to escape. Maybe we should just stay here and wait for the heroes to rescue us," Mineta suggested, clinging to hope. Izuku shook his head, watching the villains in the water warily. "I don't think we can count on heroes arriving anytime soon. Right now, we need to survive on our own. They're probably not going to wait around to attack." He noticed the villains were watching, but hadn't yet made a move to attack. "Are they trying to assess our quirks? Let's share our quirks and abilities so we can come up with a plan," he suggested. Azui nodded, and they quickly filled each other in on their quirks' strengths and limitations. Izuku considered their options, then said, "I could fly out carrying one of you, but we need to distract the villains to keep them from following us." Just as he spoke, the ship shuddered violently and split, beginning to sink further into the water. Desperate, Mineta pulled some of his sticky ball from his head and threw them into the water, causing the villains to back away momentarily. "We don't have much time before the ship sinks," Izuku said urgently. "Azui, you grab Mineta and jump. Mineta, keep throwing as many of your balls as you can slow them down. I'll take care of the rest." Azui quickly wrapped her tongue around Mineta, securing him as she prepared to jump. Mineta threw his sticky ball into the water, shouting as they left his hand. Izuku watched the villains move to avoid them and took his chance. He took off into the air, concentrating as he summoned his telekinesis. Focusing his energy, he hurled a powerful telekinetic shockwave into the water, creating a whirlpool that pulled the villains and Mineta's sticky ball together. The villains found themselves stuck to each other and unable to escape thanks to Mineta's adhesive quirk. With the threat momentarily subdued, Azui and Mineta landed near the central plaza, where Aizawa was fighting a group of villains. They quickly hid in the bushes, Izuku retracting his wings as they took in the chaotic scene before them. "We made it out," Azui whispered, eyes wide as they watched Aizawa in action. Izuku, Azui, and Mineta crouched in horror as they watched Aizawa battle wave after wave of villains. Despite his exhaustion, Aizawa took them down with precision, wielding his capture scarf and martial arts skills to dodge attacks and disarm his opponents. But they noticed some of the villains were mutation types, their quirks unaffected by Aizawa's erasure. Still, he fought on, relentless. Izuku's heart sank as he noticed the villain with hands covering his body, counting down quietly. 25, 24, 23. He's timing Eraserhead's blinks, Izuku realized with a pang of dread. The hand villain, Shigaraki, broke into a sprint toward Aizawa, and just as Aizawa's quirk deactivated, Shigaraki reached out and gripped Aizawa's elbow. Aizawa's costume began to decay instantly, his skin peeling beneath Shigaraki's grip. He barely managed to reactivate his erasure in time to knee Shigaraki in the stomach and break free. "You're cool, Eraserhead," Shigaraki sneered, "but I'm not the final boss in this game." Nomu, the massive creature that had been standing still by the fountain, suddenly moved, launching forward so quickly that it was a blur. Izuku and the others watched in shock as Nomu's fist slammed Aizawa's head into the ground with brutal force, creating a crater on impact. BLD started trickling down Aizawa's forehead, his goggles cracked. Their hearts pounded in terror as Noma lifted Aizawa and slammed him down again. And this time, Izuku couldn't hold back. He bolted from their hiding spot, grabbing his bow staff as he sprinted toward the villain and his teacher. He reached Nomu and swung his staff with every ounce of strength he had. It hit Nomu squarely, but the creature didn't even flinch. Realizing physical force alone wouldn't work, Izuku channeled his telekinesis and sent a powerful push into Nomu, enough to shove it away from Aizawa. Thinking quickly, Izuku used his telekinesis to lift Aizawa's limp form, guiding him back toward Azui and Mineta, who were still hiding. "Take him to the entrance," he yelled. "What about you, Midoriya?" Azui asked, her voice laced with worry. "I'll join you later," Izuku said, masking his own fear as he turned back to the villains. Shigaraki tilted his head, regarding Izuku with twisted amusement. "Who are you, brat?" Looks like player 2 decided to join the game. He raised a hand toward Nomu. Nomu killed the brat. With frightening speed, Nomu launched itself at Izuku, fist raised high. Izuku's reflexes kicked in, memories of Hawk's brutal training flashing through his mind. He activated his telekinetic shield just as Nomu's punch connected, sending him flying back into the fountain with enough force to shatter the stone and leave him gasping for air. Dizzy, he forced himself up, just in time to see Nomu charging again. He spread his wings and shot into the air, dodging as Nomu's fist whooshed past him. Shigaraki's eyes widened in surprise as he saw Izuku's wings unfold. Wings? Didn't expect that. Looks like he might be a mini hidden boss. Nomu roared and leapt toward him, but Izuku dodged, using his telekinesis to blast Nomu back to the ground. He hovered for a moment, focusing his energy to lift debris from the shattered fountain, then sent it raining down in sharp fragments toward Nomu and the nearby villains. Some shards embedded themselves in Nomu's skin, making the creature bleed, but it didn't seem to feel pain. Its eerie eyes locked on Izuku. Izuku touched down, panting as he observed the damage. Nomu was still standing, BLD trickling from various wounds, but the creature seemed unfazed. Suddenly, Kirojiri appeared beside Shigaraki and announced, "All the students are separated as planned, and 13 has been incapacitated. However, one student escaped." Shigaraki glared at Kirojiri. "If you weren't our way out of here, I'd disintegrate you." He turned back to Nomu. "Nomu, heal yourself." Izuku's stomach twisted as he watched Nomu rip the debris out of its body, each wound sealing itself as if nothing had happened. "You think you can beat my Nomu?" Shigaraki taunted. "It was bioengineered to kill All Might. It has shock absorption, regeneration, and super speed. No matter how much you try, it'll just regenerate." Izuku cursed under his breath, the weight of the situation pressing on him. How much longer can I hold out? He wondered, gritting his teeth. He had to protect his classmates until help arrived, if it arrived. Nomu charged him again, relentless, and Izuku barely managed to dodge, sending desperate telekinetic blasts to push it back. His vision began to blur, and his legs shook from exhaustion as he struggled to fend off Nomu's tireless attacks. Then, the entrance doors burst open, and a gust of wind filled the plaza. Izuku looked up, barely believing his eyes as he saw a towering figure with a fierce glare stepping forward. "All Might!" Izuku breathed, relief flooding him. All Might, no smile on his face, gave Izuku a firm nod. "I am here, young Midoriya. Leave this to me." The sheer power radiating from All Might sent a chill through the air, and for the first time, Shigaraki's grin faltered. Nomu roared, stepping forward to challenge this new arrival, and All Might tightened his fists, the intensity in his eyes fierce. "Nomu," Shigaraki ordered, voice dripping with anticipation, "go all out." As Ida escaped USJ, his heart raced, his mind replaying the image of his classmates and teachers left behind, facing the villains. Reaching UA as fast as he could, he stumbled into the main building and was swiftly directed to Principal Nizu's office. At that moment, Principal Nizu was having tea with none other than All Might, though in his skeletal form as Toshinori Yagi. However, Ida, unaware of All Might's other form, had no idea of the hero's presence in the room. After catching his breath, Ida quickly recounted the attack, explaining how the villains had invaded, overwhelmed Mr. Aizawa and 13, and separated the students into various danger zones. Principal Nizu immediately understood the severity of the situation and called an emergency to alert the other teachers, ensuring they would follow behind him. Meanwhile, All Might, disguised as Tashinori, slipped away to transform and raced off to the USJ as backup. With his unmatched speed, All Might bounded across the city, leaping from rooftop to reach USJ. When he finally arrived, he burst through the doors with an earth-shaking impact. Surveying the chaotic scene, he found some students tending to the wounded, 13 seriously injured from protecting the students, and Aizawa, who had faced numerous villains and was barely holding on. "All Might, you're here!" Azui exclaimed in relief, seeing the towering hero enter. "What happened to them?" he asked urgently, looking from 13 to Aizawa. Azui quickly filled him in, her tone serious. "Villains attacked, and they're after you. Midoriya is fighting the main villains at the Central Plaza right now." Hearing this, All Might didn't hesitate. He immediately pushed forward, knocking aside smaller villains in his path until he reached the heart of the plaza. There, he found Izuku Midoriya standing defiantly against the monstrous Nomu and the villain leader Shigaraki, his green hero suit dusted and his eyes blazing with determination. All Might arrived just as the Nomu was about to launch another brutal strike. "Young Midoriya," he called, landing between him and the Nomu. His voice was resolute. "Stand down. I'll take it from here." Izuku, despite his exhaustion, nodded, his relief evident. He stepped back to catch his breath, his job now done. With All Might at his side, the odds had shifted. UA's symbol of peace was here to protect them all. As Izuku stepped back to let All Might take on the Nomu, he hurriedly filled in the hero with what he knew. "All Might, this creature, the Nomu, it has multiple quirk shock absorption, regeneration, and super speed. And the leader's quirk, he can decay anything he touches, like he did with Mr. Aizawa's elbow. There's also the one with the mist quirk. He can create portals and transport people or objects." All Might absorbed the information quickly, his expression growing more serious. "Thank you, young Midoriya," he replied with a brief nod, refocusing on the monstrous Nomu, which had already locked its eyes on him under Shigaraki's command. Just then, Shigaraki cackled from his position behind the Nomu. "Nomu, kill him!" he shouted, his voice laced with a manic edge. With terrifying speed, the Nomu charged at All Might, who met the assault head-on, blocking the creature's fist with his own and generating a shockwave that sent gusts of wind rippling across the plaza. Izuku shielded his face from the force as he watched, his heart pounding as All Might and the Nomu clashed. Every punch, every impact, echoed through the USJ building as the symbol of peace took on a monster engineered specifically to kill him. Back and forth, they exchanged blows. Each punch All Might threw seemed to resonate with more power, and Izuku couldn't help but marvel at his strength. Just as All Might managed to grab hold of the Nomu in a suplex grip, ready to slam it into the ground, a portal appeared beneath them. Izuku's eyes widened in horror as he realized what was happening. "Oh no, All Might!" Izuku shouted, powerless to stop what was unfolding. All Might's body was now half submerged in the swirling portal, bending awkwardly mid-motion. Kirojiri, the mist villain, had strategically placed the portal to try and sever All Might at the waist. The portal edges began to close, creeping closer to All Might's body. But just when it looked like things were taking a dark turn, a series of footsteps echoed as Kirishima, Bakugo, and Todoroki arrived in the plaza. "Bakugo, don't let him close that portal," Todoroki shouted, already taking aim. Bakugo leapt forward, his hand lighting up as he aimed a blast toward Kirojiri's metal collar, striking it precisely. The villain recoiled, his grip loosening slightly as he struggled to maintain the portal's form. Todoroki followed up by unleashing a wave of ice, freezing the Nomu where it stood and forcing it to pause in its assault on All Might. "Dim in it, you overgrown meathead," Bakugo growled, pinning Kirojiri down. "That's enough of your portal's CRP." Freed from the Nomu's hold and the portal's trap, All Might managed to wrench himself back to safety. The Nomu, however, tore off its frozen arm without a moment's hesitation, its regeneration quirk already kicking in to heal the injury. It lunged at All Might once again, who met it with renewed force, a smile breaking out across his face as he adjusted his stance. "You said it had shock absorption, not nullification," he said with a grin, tightening his fists as his energy spiked. "Well, when you're at your limit, there's only one thing left to do. Go plus ultra." With that cry, All Might let loose a furious punch, striking the Nomu with enough power to send it hurtling through the USJ walls and out of sight. For a split second, everything was still, and the students around the plaza exhaled in relief as they saw the Noma disappear into the distance. "Izuku," Kirishima called, rushing over. "Are you okay, man?" Izuku, still breathing hard from his earlier skirmish with the Nomu, nodded, smiling weakly. "Yeah, I'm fine, Kirishima. Just a few scrapes and some quirk exhaustion." He took a steadying breath, grateful for the backup his friends had provided. As they turned back toward All Might, Izuku noticed something troubling. Steam began to rise from All Might's body, his outlines seeming to waver. The battle, however, wasn't quite over. Kurogiri, who had managed to slip from Bakugo's grip, appeared near Shigaraki, who was seething as he watched the destruction of his precious Nomu. "Your weapon failed," All Might called out, his voice booming. "Surrender yourself." Shigaraki's expression twisted in frustration as he glared at All Might. "He lied to me," he muttered to himself, clawing at his own neck with agitation. "Sensei told me All Might was getting weaker." "Tamura, we need to leave," Kurogiri warned, his tone firm. "Without the Nomu, we can't fight All Might on our own." All Might stood tall, hands on his hips, projecting confidence for his students. But Izuku caught another glimpse of steam starting to billow from his mentor's form, a telltale sign of his weakening. Before he could say anything, the sound of gunshots echoed across the plaza. Everyone turned in surprise as the shots struck Shigaraki in his arm and leg. The mist swirled protectively around him as Kurogiri teleported them away. As the villains vanished, the teachers arrived, surrounding the students and assessing the aftermath of the battle. All Might turned to them, a triumphant smile on his face. "Don't worry, everything's under control now." Kirishima clapped Izuku on the shoulder. "Man, Midoriya, that was some crazy stuff back there. Are you sure you're okay?" Izuku nodded, though he still felt the remnants of exhaustion in his limbs. "Yeah, I'm okay. Just some minor injuries and a little quirk fatigue." He noticed Cementos whispering something to Recovery Girl, and the two exchanged glances. Recovery Girl gave a knowing nod, and Cementos erected a large wall between All Might and the students, positioned himself in such a way that the students couldn't see past his wall toward All Might, where the steam was billowing more intensely. Bakugo and Todoroki, still processing the chaos, joined Kirishima and Izuku as they were guided to the other students. They all sat together as paramedics checked them over one by one. Izuku's heart finally began to slow as he realized everyone was going to be okay and that no one had been seriously injured. Looking around at his friends, Izuku felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Thanks for coming back for me, everyone," he said quietly. "Of course," Kirishima replied with a grin, lightly punching his shoulder. "You're one of us, Midoriya. We've got each other's backs, no matter what." Izuku managed a small smile, though a flicker of worry still lingered as he thought of All Might and the steam he'd seen rising from the hero's form. But, for now, he focused on his relief. Everyone was safe, and their teamwork had helped bring the crisis to an end. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Deku Had Dormant Wing Quirk. We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Tanya first for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zenin Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.